session. So we'll be through each and every chapters. Okay, we'll be quickly going through every chapters, and then after completing every chapter, we'll be having some. We'll be discussing some questions. Okay, that's what I'm planning to do today. And in between, if you guys have any doubts regarding any particular topic, you can just let me know. We'll be discussing further about the topic. All right. Am I clear to you? You
Yes,
guys can
ma'am.
respond. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Shall we begin? Okay. So we'll begin with the life processes chapter. Okay. We'll go in order itself. We'll begin with the life processes chapter. Then we'll move on to control and coordination. And yes, we'll go like that. Okay. Um, Online students, please confirm if you're able to see the screen shared.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
All right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Jahana. All right. Okay. Yes. So the life processes chapter, one of the most important chapters. Okay. Major weightage of marks is for this life process chapter and also for the control and coordination chapter. Okay. You have to give more attention to these two chapters. Also, you're going to get case-based questions from heredity chapter and then our environment chapter. It's easy. So when if any question is asked from our environment chapter, you're going to get full marks if you prepare the chapter properly. Okay, so most of the chapters are easy only, and also how do organisms reproduce, that part is also very much easier. All right, so we'll begin with the life processes chapter. Please pay attention carefully. We'll quickly go through all the concepts. Okay, so what all are the life processes? That's what is discussed over here. First one is nutrition process, right? Nutrition process, how important it is. That is what is sitting. That is what is discussed in this first paragraph. And then there is this respiration process. What is the process of respiration and what is the process of breathing? You should know the difference between breathing and respiration. Breathing is simply the exchange of gases happening in our body, whereas respiration, what is happening in respiration, guys? Tell me, how is breathing and respiration different? There are questions. Previous year, there was a question. That's why I'm asking. Online students, do contribute, okay? Don't remain passive. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the same thing. That's why I'm asking you, what's the difference between breathing and respiration? Yes,
Ma'am,
you can say.
in respiration, we use oxygen to break down food particles and
Very
generate
good, very
energy.
good. Yes, correct. In the process of respiration, we are using oxygen. See this sentence. It is used in the process of breaking down the food sources for the cellular needs. We need energy for various activities in our body, right? So for all the cellular needs, the oxygen is used up and we break down the glucose in our body and then we release energy. And where is this respiration process happening, to be more accurate? Which is a specific organelle in which energy production is happening?
Lungs?
No, in the lungs, the exchange of gases happen. Where is ATP production happening? Very good, in the
Mitochondria.
mitochondria, right? Yes. So mitochondria, because of that reason, it's called the powerhouse of the cell. And what is the full form of ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. Okay, be clear with all those kind of minute things. What if you get the questions based on that? Okay, and then one more question from this paragraph. Why do the complex organisms have a respiratory system, whereas the single-celled organisms simply undergo gaseous exchange by the process of diffusion? Why do we have a complex, more complex? Yes, in multicellular organisms, not all the cells are in direct contact with the surrounding environment, and thus simple diffusion cannot meet the requirements of our body. That's why we are having a complex respiratory system. Okay, this was also a previous year question. Okay, so if you guys are having your textbooks with you, or if you have some notebooks, just note down the important things that I'm saying. Okay, and focus on all those things properly. Okay, if you have your textbook, you can mark it in your textbook itself. That will be more proper. Okay. Yes. And then about the specialized tissues, the transportation system, that is next one is the circulatory system. Circulation is another major life process that is happening in our body. All right. And then we are moving on. We are moving on to the details of nutrition. You know, the two modes of nutrition, which are the two categories of nutrition. Yeah, say quickly. Don't take this much time. Autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is a nutrition in which the food is prepared directly by the chlorophyll bearing organisms, right? Yes, that's the autotrophic nutrition. And in heterotrophic nutrition, they are not able to prepare their own food materials, because of which they are depending upon other organisms for their energy source, right? That's the basic difference between autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Now, the next page is really important. Lots of questions from that page, okay, about the word equation and the chemical equation. If they're asking you to write the word equation, just write the word equation, okay? And if they're asking you to write the chemical equation, write the balanced chemical equation for photosynthesis. Yes, Umar? Please ask.
Yes, ma'am. So the difference between heterotrophic and autotrophic nutrition is that one makes their own food and the other doesn't.
Exactly. Yes. Autotrophic nutrition is a kind of nutrition in which the organism prepares its own food materials. Whereas in
Okay.
heterotrophic nutrition, that organism is not able to prepare its own food. It's depending upon another organisms for its food source. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And do you want me to give examples for it? Or else you guys can give examples for autotrophs. Plants are the autotrophs, right? Then certain bacteria, certain microbes, they are autotrophic in nature. What about heterotrophs? Human beings are heterotrophs, right? Yes. Now, moving on. Umar, I hope it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All right. Now, coming back to the chemical equation, balanced chemical equation has to be written. Okay, if they are asking you to write the equation for photosynthesis. And the chlorophyll and sunlight, they are also essential. Okay, in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, you get glucose, oxygen, and water. Now, if they are asking you to write the equation for respiration, what do? You simply reverse this equation, right? In respiration, what is happening? In the presence of oxygen, glucose is broken down to release carbon dioxide and water. You just reverse this, flip this equation. Then it becomes a respiration equation. Okay, guys. Then another important question from this part: the processes occurring, events occurring during the process of photosynthesis. All these three events are important. I'm not going to read everything. They are given as points. You can go through. And now this figure is important. Okay, this figure is important. They might give you the figure and they'll ask you to mark the things. And what is the significance of these cells? Where are the guard cells found? In the stomata. Very good. Yes, the stomata are enclosed by the guard cells. And then comes the activity. Okay, we have some activities given over here about the photosynthesis. What is this activity showing? What is the aim of this activity? To show that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis, for which you take a variegated leaf. What is a variegated leaf? A leaf in which there some portions are non-green, right? In some portions there is no chlorophyll. And then when you perform starch test on such kind of a leaf, what would you see? You'll only find the presence of starch in the green colored part, whereas the other part, which is chlorophyll less, will give negative test for starch, right? And in order to test for starch, which solution do you use, guys? Iodine solution. All right. Yes. So you have to read this activity. Okay. This is important. Potassium hydroxide is for carbon dioxide absorption. That's coming up. Okay. And then about the opening and closing of the stomatal pores. This is again an important thing. Okay. The guard cells are helping. Is somebody unmuted? Please mute yourselves, everyone. Okay. Thank you. Yes. All right. So the opening and the closing of the stomatal pores, it's regulated by the guard cells. How are the guard cells able to regulate the opening and closing? By the process of osmosis. Very good. Yes. By the process of osmosis, guard cells take up water, they become turgid, and because of that reasons, they'll cause the opening of the stomatal pore. And which all are the processes happening through the stomatal pore? The functions of stomata. Online students, quickly say. Who can say?
Exchange of gases.
Exchange of gases, and one more, transpiration.
Transpiration.
Yeah, very good, very good. Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor, right? Yes, so both these processes are happening. And then what causes a closure of the stomata? Again, exosmosis happens, right? Exosmosis is the exit of water from the cells, and that causes the shrinkage of the guard cells, because of which the stomatal pore is closed. Okay, so both these diagrams, A and B, open and closed stomatal pore, that is important. You can go through. Okay, and in the guard cells, there is chloroplast. These markings are important. Okay, kidney-shaped cells are the guard cells, and there's a stomatal pore, and there's a chloroplast. That means the guard cells can perform photosynthesis because they have chloroplast in them. Right? Now, this activity, what is the aim of this activity, guys? To show carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis. And for this, what do you, yes, Umar.
Yes, ma'am. So for the guard cells, they will close, they'll shrink once water
They lose
exists.
water, yes, and they will not be able to maintain their shape, because of which they'll become flaccid, and that causes the closure of the stomatal.
What if water flows into them?
Sorry?
What if water flows into them?
If water flows into them, they become turgid. See this condition, the A part. They become turgid, and that causes the opening of the stomatal pore. They become fully filled with water. They swell up. Okay, the guard cells swell up. That's the thing. Okay, Umar?
All right, thanks.
All right. Okay. Now this activity, it shows carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis. And to show it, you have a control experimental setup, and then you have your another experimental setup A is given over here, and you have a vessel that contains potassium hydroxide in it. What's the property of potassium hydroxide? It's going to absorb carbon dioxide, which is there in this container. And if carbon dioxide is deprived, will this leaf give positive test for starch? No, it's not going to photosynthesize. You are giving it light, you are giving it all the required things, but you have cut down the supply of carbon dioxide, because of which you're not going to get positive result for the starch test, right? While this plant, the control plant, is going to give you the presence of starch in the leaves. Okay. Now, online students, if you guys find anything to be doubtful, do let me know. I'll be going through the concept again. All right, guys. You all are there, right? None of them have turned their videos on. You can turn your videos on. Okay.
Can you repeat the activity again?
Activity, which this activity. All right.
Yeah.
Advait, in this activity, what have we done? We have taken a watch glass that contains potassium hydroxide. What is the peculiarity of potassium hydroxide? It can absorb carbon dioxide. Okay, and you have placed this plant inside the bell jar. Okay, so how many? Suppose there are 10 carbon dioxide molecules in this bell jar. They will all be absorbed by the potassium hydroxide. Okay, and you're making sure that there is no entry of carbon dioxide into this chamber again. Okay, so you're actually cutting the supply of carbon dioxide, because of which photosynthesis is not going to happen. Clear, Advait?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, all right. Now about the heterotrophic nutrition. Yes, guys, which all are the types of heterotrophic nutrition? The three major types of heterotrophic nutrition: holozoic, saprophytic,
Parasitic.
parasitic. Very good. Yes. What is holozoic nutrition? Digestion takes place after the ingestion of food materials inside the body of the organism, right? For example, we human beings, amoeba, all of them are examples for holozoic nutrition. We first consume the food, it goes into our intestine, then the digestive enzymes are secreted, and then it's absorbed into our body. What about parasitic nutrition, guys? Parasite is going to absorb pre-formed food materials, right? All the nutrient elements, they are directly absorbed into their body. That's what is done by the parasites. Now, what about saprophytes?
Decaying matter. If we don't
Yes,
decay matter.
they'll be secreting the enzyme first of all. They'll be secreting the enzyme on their food material. They'll first digest the food material, and then they'll absorb that dead and decaying materials into their body. That's the saprophytic nutrition. I hope you understood the difference. Okay, holozoic, parasitic, saprophytic. Now, we already said about the examples for holozoic nutrition. What about parasitic nutrition? Give me examples. Quickly. Don't take this much time. Huh?
Leech.
Leeches are ectoparasites. Yes, that's correct. Some endoparasites. Endoparasites. Yes. Cuscuta is a parasite in the plant kingdom. Correct. Tapeworm. Very good. Tapeworms are internal parasites. They go into our intestine, and then they'll take up the digested food materials. Okay. And examples for saprophytes. Quick. Saprophytes. Fungus.
Mushroom.
Very good. Yes. Fungi. Fungi are examples for saprophytes. Okay. Yes. So just go through all the examples. They are all given over here. All the information is there in the textbook. I'm not saying anything out of the textbook. Everything is there in the textbook. Okay. Just go through the things, read them properly. Now, how do organisms obtain their nutrition? For example, holozoic nutrition in amoeba. They can ask you to draw this diagram and explain the process. Okay. So just study the diagram and then explain the process. See what is happening over here. There's a food particle. There's amoeba. Amoeba is approaching the food particle. It extends its pseudopodia and it encloses the food particle inside a vacuole, and then the digestive enzymes are secreted into the vacuole, and that causes the digestion of food materials. Right? Yes. So it's a kind of holozoic nutrition. Okay, and even paramecium is example for such kind of a unicellular organism that is having Holozoic nutrition. All right, guys. Online students following, everyone understanding? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
yes. Okay, good. Now, nutrition in human beings, the important part in nutrition. Okay, the most important part in nutrition. You can expect a question to draw the diagram of the alimentary canal and mark certain parts and write their functions. There was a question in the previous year. Okay, such a question was there. Okay, they'll be asking you to draw the alimentary canal, highlight certain particular parts, and then write their functions. Okay, so we'll do one thing. We'll begin with the buccal cavity. Yeah. So what two types of digestion happen in the buccal cavity? Which all are they? Mechanical digestion and chemical digestion, right? Mechanical digestion happens with the help of your teeth and your tongue, right? Yes, your food is broken down into smaller particles with the help of your teeth, and also there's a tongue which is helping in mixing the food with the saliva. And what is the chemical digestion happening over here? Saliva is helping in chemical digestion. Which is the enzyme contained in saliva? Salivary
Salivary
amylase.
amylase.
Correct. What is the substrate of salivary amylase? What is the substrate on which salivary amylase act? Quick. Yes. The
Starch.
starch which is there. Correct. The starch which is there in your food material, it is converted into maltose or simple sugar. That's what is happening in your mouth cavity or in the buccal cavity, right? And then once the food is mixed with the saliva, what is it called? It's called the bolus, right? Now the bolus has to reach the stomach. How does it reach the stomach? Through the esophagus. What is the process called? Peristalsis. Very good. Yes. What is peristalsis? Thus, the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles in the esophagus. That is the process of peristalsis, right? There is a rhythmic contraction and relaxation, and that's how the bolus is reaching the stomach. Now, once it reaches the stomach, again, mechanical digestion and chemical digestion is going to happen. What is the mechanical process of digestion happening over here? Yeah, the stomach is a muscular bag, right? So it's going to turn the food up and mix it with the gastric juice, right? Now the gastric juice comes into play. It has got some functions to do. What all are the functions done by the gastric juice? What are the contents in the gastric juice? There is HCl, then there's
Pepsin.
mucus. Yeah,
It mainly disinfects our food digested.
it makes the food acidic. Okay.
No, it disinfects our food. Disinfects our food.
Okay. Yes. And which is the digestive enzyme present in the gastric juice? One digestive enzyme is present in the gastric juice. Which is it?
Pepsin.
Pepsin. Very good. Pepsin is the digestive enzyme present in the gastric juice. Now we'll speak about the functions of each of these contents in the gastric juice. What is the function of HCl? HCl turns the food acidic so that pepsin can act upon it. Pepsin requires an acidic pH for it to perform its function. Now, one more function is there for HCl. Yeah, it kills all the microbes which are there in our food material, right? Yes. Okay, that's done. Now, what about mucus? What's the function of mucus? Yes, you know that
Protects
HCl
the
is
inner lining of the stomach.
very good, Sana. Yes. So you know that HCl is a strong corroding acid, right? So if it's getting exposed to our stomach cells, there are chances for the stomach walls to get corroded. And in order to prevent that, there is a mucus lining in our stomach, right? Yes. So that's the function of the mucus lining. It helps in protecting the stomach. All right. Now, the pepsin. What's the function of pepsin, guys?
Breaks down proteins.
It helps in breaking down proteins. Proteins are broken down to amino acids, smaller polypeptide chains. That's what is happening. Okay, and it's the incomplete digestion of proteins which is happening. All right. Now, once the food is digested in the stomach, now it has to move into the small intestine. And the entry of the food into the stomach and exit of the food from the stomach is regulated by certain muscles. What are those muscles called? Sphincter muscles. Very good. Yes, sphincter muscles. Sphincter muscles are going to regulate the entry and exit of food from the stomach. And once it's there in the small intestine, what is going to happen? Bile is going to act upon the food material. Why is bile acting? What is the function of bile, guys? It helps in emulsification. That term is really important. Okay, if you are asked to write about the function of bile, even if you write that the fats are broken down into smaller particles, and if you're lacking that word emulsification, you're not going to get full marks. Okay, certain biological terms are really required in your answers. Okay, and if they are not there in your answers, your teacher is not going to give you mark, because those terms will be there in the marking scheme and they have to be given importance. Okay, emulsification of fats is the function of bile. Okay, now one more function is there. What is it? One more function. It helps in, yes, it makes the medium alkaline so that the pancreatic enzymes can act upon the food material. Now, when the food is in the stomach, it's fully acidic in nature because it has got mixed with HCl. Now, for the enzymes, which are the pancreatic enzymes, for them to act alkaline, pH is required, and that is established with the help of bile. Now, tell me about the pancreatic enzymes or the pancreatic juice. Which all are the contents in the pancreatic juice?
Trypsin and lipids.
Trypsin, lipase, one more. Trypsin, pancreatic amylase. Yes, there is salivary amylase in the mouth. Now, pancreas also secretes amylase, right? Yes, so there is pancreatic amylase, there is lipase, and also there is trypsin. Now, the function of lipase, what is the function of lipase? Helps in complete digestion of proteins, lipids. Lipids into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, lipids are broken down to fatty acids and glycerol. Now, the function of trypsin, protein digestion. Yes, complete digestion of proteins happens when trypsin act upon them. Now, about pancreatic amylase, it breaks down the the carbohydrate which is there in your food material into glucose molecules. Okay, all right. So digestion has happened. The small intestine helped in digestion. Now, what will happen, guys? Now, the digested food has to be absorbed into our bloodstream. And how is this absorption happening? Which are the structures present in your small intestine that helps in absorption of digested food materials? Villi. Yes, there are
Villi.
finger-like projections called villi. And how are they adapted to perform this function? They increase the surface area for the absorption of food materials, and they're richly supplied with blood vessels, right? That's the structure of villi. They're richly supplied with blood vessels, which help in easy transport of the food materials into and out of into it. Okay, now, and so we have discussed all these parts. That's what is written over here about the villi. We have reached over here. And yes, okay. Now, what about the unabsorbed food materials? Yeah, they'll be moving into the large intestine. And is any digestion happening in the large intestine? No digestion is happening. So what is actually happening? It's just the absorption of some water molecules that is happening in the small intestine, and the remaining undigested food materials will be removed through the anus. Okay, and the anal sphincters are there to regulate the movement of the food through the anus. All right, clear? Is nutrition clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Now the next life process is respiration. All right, guys. Yes, respiration. Now, what is this test? What is this test? What is this activity? To show that carbon dioxide is there in the air that you expire out, right? Yes. So what do? You just blow into the lime water. Lime water turns milky, and that shows the presence of carbon dioxide, right? When lime water reacts with carbon dioxide, it turns milky. Oh yeah, yes. Thanks for reminding, Sana, about the gallbladder. We didn't say anything about the gallbladder. Yeah, what's the significance of gallbladder, guys?
It's
Tell me.
bile juice.
It stores the bile juice. That's the function of gallbladder. Okay, gallbladder. Who's going to secrete bile? Who's producing bile? Liver. Yes, liver produces the bile juice, and it's temporarily stored in the gallbladder. Okay, that is a small sac-like structure, and then from the gallbladder, it's directly released into the initial part of the small intestine. Okay, where the food gets alkaline. And there was one more activity over here, guys. Yeah, this activity is important. Okay, about the starch to show that saliva can break down your food materials. So the activity is that you take two test tubes, A and B, and then what do you do? In both the test tubes, you mix it, you add a bit of like 1 ml of starch solution in it. And then what do you do? In one of the test tubes, you also add saliva. Okay. And then what do? You will leave it for like about 20 to 30 minutes. And after some time, what do? You add iodine solution to both the test tubes. Okay. And then which of these test tubes is going to give you positive test for iodine? The one without saliva is going to give you positive test, because the one with saliva is going to break down starch into simple sugars. That's not going to give you positive test for iodine. Why do you use iodine? Iodine is used to show the presence of starch, right? Starch is only present in B because you have not added saliva in it. Okay, A will show negative result for starch and B will show positive result for starch. Okay, and this shows that starch has got the activity to break down the starch. All right, guys. Okay, moving. Okay. Now, okay. So about the lime water test. When you blow into it, it turns milky, which shows that carbon dioxide is released during the process of respiration. Now, when we speak about respiration, which are the two types of respiration, guys? Aerobic and anaerobic. Yes. Now, what is the other name for anaerobic respiration that happens in E cells? Quickly, don't take much time to think. Be quick in answering. This is not even revision. What do we say for this session? Anyways, yeah, tell me. Say. What do we say? Fermentation. Very good. You said that only, right, Jahanara?
Yes, ma'am, fermentation.
Yes. Good. Fermentation. Anaerobic respiration is otherwise called fermentation. Now, moving on directly to this flow chart. Really important. Study this flow chart properly. You are going to get question based on this. Yes, Umar?
So, ma'am, fermentation is another word to say respiration.
It's the respiration. Anaerobic respiration is called fermentation. That happens in the
The-
E cells especially.
There
Okay?
were like two modes of respiration.
There are two modes of respiration. Yes, Umar. One in the presence of oxygen and the other one in the absence of oxygen. We are going to discuss about that only in this flow chart. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes. All right, guys. Now, the first step, which is shown over here, that is a conversion of glucose into pyruvate, is common to all the living organisms. So if you get such a kind of question, remember that this is the step which is common to all the living organisms. And where does it happen? It happens in the cytoplasm. Okay, it happens in the cytoplasm, be it an E cell, be it a bacterium, be it a human being. This process is common to everybody. Okay, and what is happening over here? 6-carbon glucose is broken down to 2 molecules of pyruvate. Pyruvate has got only 3 carbon atoms. That means when you split it, you're going to get 2 molecules of pyruvate. Now, the fate of pyruvate is going to be different in different organisms based upon whether it's going to be aerobic or anaerobic kind of respiration. If it's anaerobic respiration, that means in case of E cells, what are you going to get? Which all are the products? Yes, ethanol, carbon dioxide, and energy. Yes, ethanol is a 2-carbon molecule, and there's one more carbon that is going to be carbon dioxide, and then there is energy liberated. Okay. Yes, in the absence of oxygen in the E cells. Now, in the presence of oxygen in human beings in mitochondria, what happens? Yes, pyruvate is broken down to carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Remember this. Okay, carbon dioxide, water, and energy. All right. Now, the anaerobic respiration can happen in human muscle cells also. When does it happen?
When we
Yeah,
When we do our exercise.
when we do some kind of strenuous exercise, what would happen? Our muscles are demanding more amount of energy, and for preparing energy, since oxygen is not available, it shifts into an aerobic mode of respiration by which energy is produced. Okay, yes, energy is produced, and along with the energy, lactic acid also gets accumulated. And if the lactic acid keeps on getting accumulated after a particular level of the accumulation of lactic acid, what would you have? You will have muscle cramps. You won't be able to move that muscle. Then you will have to take rest, and then only you will be able to perform your activity. Right? That's about the lactic acid. Remember this. You're going to get application level questions from this. Okay? They'll ask you like, why are we not able to continuously perform an activity, a strenuous activity using our muscles? It's because lactic acid gets accumulated and it's going to interfere with the activity, muscle contraction. That's what you're supposed to write. Okay. Yes. So this flow chart is really important. Study it properly. The breakdown of glucose by various pathways is shown. And now we already said about ATP. What is ATP? It's the energy currency of most of the cellular processes. ATP is called it is adenosine triphosphate, and its production happens in the mitochondria in case of aerobic organisms. And how is ATP produced? Adenosine diphosphate combined with phosphate in the presence of energy is going to give you adenosine triphosphate, ADP, adenosine diphosphate, combined with one more phosphate becomes adenosine triphosphate. Okay, just remember this. Just remember this thing from this whole table. Okay, just this one. You have to remember this. Okay, now moving on, guys. Moving on to the exchange of gases. Yes. So, what is the type of exchange of gases happening in the plants during daytime and the nighttime? Is there any difference? No. No? Yes. Tell me, who can tell me the difference in the diffusion of gases in plants during daytime and at the nighttime? There was a question in the previous year.
In daytime, they take carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. In
Correct.
nighttime, they take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide.
Very good. Yes. During the daytime, they take in carbon dioxide so that they can photosynthesize and they'll give out oxygen. Only the oxygen that they do not require. Okay. They are also living organisms. They respire, and whatever is remaining is waste and they'll throw it out during the daytime. Okay. But at the night time, since there's no sunlight, they can't photosynthesize. So what they are going to do, they're going to take in oxygen, they need to respire, and they give out carbon dioxide like any other normal organism. Okay. Yes. Remember, that's what is written in these two paragraphs. Okay, guys. And then one more. Huh? It is different for the desert plants. In the desert plants, what happens? The stomata remain closed during the daytime, but in the evening, at the nighttime, what do? They'll take up all the carbon dioxide, they'll store it, and then in the daytime, they use that carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. That's how it's different in the desert plants. Okay, remember that also. Now, guys, about the terrestrial animals, we have a slow breathing rate when compared to the aquatic organisms. Why is it so?
Because water it is mixed with
Yes, in case of terrestrial organisms, there is free oxygen around you. You just need to simply take it in. You just need to breathe it in. But is it available in free form in water? No, it's
No, ma'am, it's
dissolved.
not.
Yes, it's
It is-
dissolved
it is
in
dis-
water. Yeah, and in order to meet their energy requirements, their breathing rate will always be higher. Okay, you'll find them to be taking in more at a faster rate. They'll be taking up the oxygen. Okay, remember that. And then about yeah, that's what is given over here. Gills will be helping in the oxygenation process, and then the blood is pumped to all parts of the body. Whereas terrestrial organisms, yeah, it's all there in the atmosphere. You can simply take it in. Now, when we speak about the human beings, okay, now you can just go through this one also. Okay, the tobacco, like how it's affecting your lungs. Okay, tobacco smoke, how it's affecting your lungs, and the nicotine and everything inside it. So you have to say no to tobacco and its products. Okay, just go to the table. Now, in human beings, yeah, what is happening, guys? Yeah, tell me about the transportation of air quickly. Come on.
the air.
The air is taken in through your nasal cavity, through the nostrils. Now, when the air is taken in through the nostrils, what all happens to the air? Filtration happens. Yes, there are tiny hairs in our nostrils that are going to filter the air. One more thing happens in the nose. Yes, the air gets warmed up to our body temperature. These are the two things that are going to happen in the nasal passage, right? Now, after it's entered into the nasal passage, then where does it go? Through the pharynx and the larynx, it reaches the trachea. Now, what is the peculiarity of trachea?
Yeah, they are.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
cartilages.
Advait, tell me.
Uh,
Yeah.
um,
Cartilage. Yes. They have got incomplete rings of cartilage, or else you call it to be C-shaped rings of cartilage. Now, in previous year, there was one question in which they had given 4 statements, and they asked you to identify the incorrect statement. One of the statement was like this: the trachea contain incomplete rings of incomplete bony rings in them in order to maintain their structure. Is it correct? No, incomplete cartilaginous rings are present in the trachea. Okay, they are cartilaginous in nature. It's not bony. Huh? No, it was not assertion reason. It is this. There were like 4 statements given, and you had to select an incorrect statement. That was it. Yes, and yes. So this pharynx is the region that is going to no, larynx is the voice box. Okay, pharynx is this throat portion from where there is it's leading to the trachea. There's this opening that is common to the nasal passage and to your mouth cavity, and from here there is your esophagus that is arising. It goes into the stomach, and then there is a trachea that is leading to your lungs. Okay, that's the peculiarity of this region. Who asked the question? Yeah, Deba, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now about the larynx. What's the significance of larynx? Larynx is again cartilaginous, membranous structure. It's called the voice box. These membranes vibrate when air strikes on it, And when the membranes vibrate, your sound is produced. Okay, voice is produced. Now, so okay, that's about the cartilage. C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present in the trachea to prevent the collapse of trachea if there is no air in the trachea. Okay, now there's one more thing in the trachea. Mucus. Mucus is there, and also there are cilia, right? Ciliary cells are there, which continuously keeps on lashing to spread the mucus all through the trachea. What's the significance of mucus? What's the significance of mucus in trachea, guys? Yeah, it helps in trapping the dust particles. It helps in trapping the microbes so that they do not reach into the lungs. In the mock paper, there was a question to write about the mucus in the respiratory passage. Most of them wrote about the mucus that is there in the stomach. Okay, it was about the mucus in the respiratory passage. So this is what you're supposed to write. Okay, now the trachea, they'll branch out into, what will happen to the trachea? They'll branch out into left and right bronchi. Yes, they'll get divided into left and right bronchi. Bronchi will branch out into bronchioles and they'll terminate in alveolar sacs. Yes, they'll terminate in alveoli or alveolar sacs. Now, what is this function of alveolar sacs? They help in the exchange of gases. They help in the diffusion of gases between the outer environment and also between the bloodstream, right? That's what is happening in the alveoli. This is really important. Study this part properly. They can give you the diagram. They can ask you to write the functions, whatever it is. And also the alveoli are richly surrounded by capillaries, okay, which help in faster diffusion of substances. And just as we said about villi that increase the surface area, alveoli also help in increasing the surface area for the diffusion of gases. Okay, that's important. And now what is it, guys? Now about the the transport exchange of gases. How is the exchange of gases happening, guys? Tell me. Suppose this is a blood capillary. Which gas is going to enter from the blood capillary into the alveolus? Carbon dioxide. Yes. Correct. And which gas is going to enter into the oxygen? How is this transportation happening? What is the process called?
Diffusion.
Diffusion is a process happening. According to the concentration gradient, the gases are getting transported. All right, they are getting exchanged. Remember that. Okay. And now about the carbon dioxide soluble in water. Yeah, this one also is important. Okay. The carbon dioxide is more soluble in water than oxygen. Hence, it's transported in dissolved form in our body. And whenever it's formed, it's exchanged with the surrounding quickly because it's more soluble in the blood. Okay. Now, about the respiratory pigment hemoglobin. What is the significance of hemoglobin? It gives red color. Okay. Yes, it has got affinity for oxygen. It binds with the oxygen and help in transporting oxygen to all parts of the body. Okay. And now about this one also, how smoking destroys the the alveoli and the trachea. Okay, in the trachea there are cilia, right? So all the cilia will be destroyed, because of which filtration of the air is not going to happen, and also trapping of microorganisms is not going to happen, because mucus distribution gets interfered, and also it's going to cause the deposition of lots of smoke, dust, and other kind of things in the alveolus, because of which exchange of gases will not happen fast. Okay, all those other things, go through this one properly. Okay.
They would actually get passed. By chance they not pass from the good bad that.
Yeah. Those boxes are important. They have asked questions based on them. Okay. Now about the next life process, that is transportation in human beings. Okay, moving quickly to the heart part. Yes, guys, tell me about the heart.
Heart has 4 chambers.
Heart has 4 chambers. Okay, good. We are speaking about human heart. Okay, human heart has got 4 chambers. Yes.
It has
which all are the 4 chambers? Left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, right ventricle. Right? Now, which part of the heart is going to have deoxygenated blood, and which side of the heart is having deoxygenated blood?
Right
side have deoxygenated blood, whereas the left side have oxygenated blood. And remember that your right is the left of the diagram and your left is the right side of the diagram. Remember all the time. Okay, your left is the right side of the diagram, your right is the left side of the diagram. It's really important while you answer. Okay, because they might be giving you the diagram, and they'll ask you to mark which blood vessel it is, what is the function, such kind of questions they'll ask. Okay, so you should know properly. Okay, now, you were speaking about the vena cava. We'll begin with the vena cava itself. Yeah, what's the function of vena cava?
The oxygen it takes
Say quickly, don't take much time. They bring in deoxygenated blood from the upper and lower part of your body into which chamber? Into the right atrium, right? Once the blood reaches the right atrium, once the blood is filled in the right atrium contract, and that causes the movement of the blood into the right ventricles. And there is a valve in between right atrium and right ventricle. Which is a valve, guys? Tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. Okay, tricuspid. Why is it called tricuspid? Because it has got three cusps. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Three flaps are there. 1, 2, 3. That's why it's called tricuspid valve. Cusp means flap. Okay, yes. So it's tricuspid valve. And then from the right ventricle, what happens? The blood is going to move into pulmonary artery. Now, what is the significance of pulmonary artery? Whenever you hear the term pulmonary, you have to relate it with lungs. Very good. You have to relate it with lungs. Okay. Whenever you hear the term pulmonary, relate it with lungs. Okay. Now, the pulmonary arteries are going to carry blood into lungs. It's going to supply the blood into the lungs. And why is the blood taken into the lungs, guys? For the purpose of oxygenation. Yes, correct. For the purpose of oxygenation, the blood is taken into the lungs, and once the blood is oxygenated, it has to be taken back into the heart, and that's done by the pulmonary vein. Again, the vein. Okay, it's carrying blood away from the heart, away from the lungs towards the heart. Right? Yes, pulmonary vein, and it is the only vein that is carrying oxygenated blood. Remember, exceptions are important. Okay, they'll ask you questions based on the exceptions. Be clear with the exceptions. Okay, now the pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood into the left atrium. From the left atrium, once the left atrium is fully filled with blood, it contracts, and that causes the blood to move into the left ventricle. And from the left ventricle, what happens? The blood is transported to all parts of the body through the major artery. Which is a major artery? Aorta. Yes, aorta is going to carry the blood to all parts of the body. Aorta is going to split into a number of arteries, and they are going to supply blood to all parts of your body. Now, which is a blood vessel present in the opening of left ventricle and right ventricle? I mean, a valve present in the opening of left ventricle and right ventricle. The valve.
Bicuspid.
Bicuspid valve is present between left atrium and left ventricle. This is a bicuspid valve. Bicuspid because it has got two cusps. Okay. Are anybody saying semilunar valve? You said okay, good. Abdan. Yes. So this is semilunar valve. Okay, semilunar valves are present at the opening of right ventricle and left ventricle. Okay. Now, what is the significance of valves? Say quickly.
They make sure the blood doesn't flow back.
They ensure that the blood doesn't flow back. Yes, backflow of blood is prevented because of the presence of valves. Okay, we are done with this part. Okay, we are done with the heart. Now we are moving on to the oxygen enters the blood in the lungs. Yeah, what is this shown? What is this? What is the schematic representation? Double circulation. Whenever they're asking you to write about double circulation, and if it's a 3-mark question, include the diagram. Really important. They might not ask you to draw it, but if you're including it, it will be an added advantage. Okay, wherever diagrams are essential, you should add them. Okay, and your diagram should be drawn with a pencil, and labeling also should be done with a pencil. Okay, yes, remember that. And then, okay, so why is it called double circulation? Because there's pulmonary circulation and also there's systemic circulation. What is pulmonary circulation? The supply of blood into the lungs is called the pulmonary circulation, and systemic circulation is done through to all parts of our body. Right now, okay, so what is the significance of this double circulation, guys?
It's done in body.
It helps in preventing the mixing up of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, and also it helps in maintaining a constant body temperature. Right? We are warm-blooded organisms. We need to maintain the constant internal body temperature. So this is going to help in effectively performing all those functions. Okay? There's no mixing up of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. And since we are complex organisms, our demand for oxygen is very high, and it has to be separated separately through separate routes. There's no mixing up of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. No, there'll be difference in the temperature. Okay, deoxygenated blood will be more higher in temperature because it's coming after respiration. Okay, there's this difference. Okay, guys. Now, what about the fishes? This is also important. Okay, fishes have only got 2 chambers in their heart. Okay, now how is the pumping action happening in the fishes? The blood, it gets oxygenated in the gills, and this blood is not returning into heart. the blood is going to be supplied to all parts of the body. Okay. And it's the deoxygenated blood which is returning to the heart and it's taken to the gills for oxygenation. Is it clear, guys? That's a single circulation in fishes. Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear? Respond.
Yes.
Online students.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All right. Okay. Yeah. Please respond. Okay. Yes. If you have any doubts, do ask me also. Yes. Okay. So that's about the fishes and the human beings. Now, what is this device called? Device which is used to measure the blood pressure.
Sphygmomanometer.
Sphygmomanometer. Study the name properly. Sphygmomanometer. Okay, it's used to measure the blood pressure. Now, what is the systolic blood pressure and the diastolic blood pressure in human beings? What do you mean by systole? Systole is contraction and diastole is relaxation, right? So contraction is going to create more pressure. Remember like that. When you contract something, when you are squeezing something, it's going to create more pressure than relaxing it, right? Yes, systolic pressure is 120 millimeter of mercury and diastolic pressure is 80 millimeters of mercury. Remember this, okay? Systolic and diastolic blood pressure of a normal individual is 120 by 80. You say it like that only, okay? 120 by 80. Okay, systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Remember that. And the instrument uses sphygmomanometer. Now, about the blood vessels. Which are the three blood vessels? Tell me quickly. Arteries, veins, capillaries. Yes, good. Okay. Now, what's the difference between arteries and veins? Say quickly.
Arteries carry oxygenated blood and veins carry deoxygenated blood.
Is it happening in all the cases, guys? No.
No.
Okay. So, what is a proper definition? What is a proper definition for an artery?
Artery, they carry.
Arteries are
carry
thick walled.
blood away from the heart towards an organ, right? And what is the function of vein? Vein carries blood away from an organ towards the heart. That's the proper definition for artery and vein. And okay, about the exceptions. Okay, the only artery that carry deoxygenated blood is a pulmonary artery, and the only vein that carries oxygenated blood is a pulmonary vein. And about the structure of artery and vein, artery has got thicker muscular walls, and the lumen is smaller. Why is it having thicker muscular walls, guys?
Because of the high blood.
In order to
Due to
withstand
blood pressure.
Correct. It's in order to withstand the high blood pressure, because the blood is being pumped at a high pressure from the heart. And in order to withstand the blood pressure, the arteries are all thick and muscular in nature. What about the veins? They have thin walls.
They have thin walls.
They don't need to withstand much blood pressure, because after respiration, blood is going to flow out of the organs at a very low pressure. And now there are chances for the blood to backflow since the pressure is so less. So how is that prevented?
If the veins have valves.
Very good. Veins have got valves in them. Valves prevent the backflow of the blood, right? So remember, arteries do not have valves. Veins have valves. Okay, remember that. Okay. Now, what about the capillaries? What is the significance of capillaries, guys?
One single cell.
They are, yes, they are one cell thick, right? One cell thick they are. And that's going to help in exchange of materials between the blood and the surroundings. It's so thin, right? It's so thin. So that's going to facilitate in the diffusion of waste materials. Water is by osmosis, gases, everything can be diffused at a faster rate, and they can reach all the organs and tissues in your body. That's the significance of capillaries. And now about the maintenance by the platelets. Well, what's the function of platelets, guys? Platelets helps in blood clotting process. Yes, it helps in preventing excess loss of blood from the point of injury. Now, what about lymph? What is lymph?
Tissue fluid.
Yeah, it's a fluid, another fluid which is important for the transportation. And what are the functions of the lymph? See, these are the functions of lymph. Okay, lymph drains into lymphatic capillaries from intercellular spaces. They finally join the larger veins. Now, the lymph carry digested and absorbed fat from the intestine. It also drains excess fluid from the spaces back into the blood. Those are the two functions of lymph. Study the functions of lymph. Okay, at least the functions of lymph. Okay, study them. Now, about the transportation in plants. Yeah. So, which are the two major tissues that help in the transportation of water and food in plants?
Xylem and phloem.
Xylem and phloem. Xylem is helping in the water and mineral transport, whereas a phloem is helping in the transportation of prepared food materials from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Right? Yes. And okay. About the transport of water, how does the water transport happen in the plants? By the osmosis, yes, by the process of osmosis, it enters into the root cells, and root pressure is going to cause the water molecules to move towards the base of the stem. And once they reach the base of the stem, there is a transpiration pull that is going to act upon the water molecules, and that's going to push the water upward. Right, guys? Transpiration pull is going to pull the water upward. Right? Because of transpiration, there's a vacuum created at the topmost part of the leaf, and in order to cover this vacuum, in order to fill this vacuum, what happens? The water is being pulled upward from the lower portion of the stem. And this is how a continuous column of water is maintained in the xylem vessels. Okay, now one more thing. Transpiration does not happen at night time. So what is helping in the transportation of water at the night time? Which force? Which force is helping in the transportation of water at the night time? It's the root pressure. Okay, root pressure is helping in the movement of water into the plants during the night time. Now about the transpiration process. What is the significance of transpiration, guys? Transpiration. Say quickly. Transpiration.
Removal of excess water.
Release of excess water. It helps in releasing excess amount of water, and also it helps in the cooling the surface of the leaves, right? Yes, those are the functions. See, during daytime, stomata are open, transpiration pull is a major driving force. And at the night time, root pressure. See this sentence. Okay, mark everything and study them properly. Okay, the transpiration, it helps in temperature regulation, water and mineral movement. All of those kind of things happen. Okay, now transport of food and other substances. What is this process called? Transportation of food is called translocation, right? Translocation is the movement of food materials, and it happens through the sieve tubes. Okay, sieve tubes are the components of the phloem cells only. So through the sieve tubes, it's going to move through the adjacent companion cells, and the movement is bidirectional. Okay, the movement of food is bidirectional, both upward and downward movement happens. But what about the xylem movement? The water in the xylem, it moves unidirectionally, only from the roots to aerial parts of the plant. It's not going to happen bidirectionally. Remember all these kind of things. And then, okay, now the last process in the life process chapter is excretion. Yes, excretion helps in the removal of harmful metabolic waste materials. Carbon dioxide, it's filtered through the lungs and it's removed by the blood in the lungs. And then what about the nitrogenous waste materials? Nitrogenous waste materials are eliminated from your kidney in the form of urine, right? Yes, urea and uric acid are the major nitrogenous waste materials, and they are removed through the kidney. Yes, and then which is the basic filtration unit of the kidney, guys? Major filtration unit of kidney.
Nephron.
Nephrons. Very good. Yes, nephrons are the basic filtration units of the kidney. Now, which all are the parts of nephrons, guys? The filtration. Where does filtration happen?
Bowman's capsule.
Filtration happen in the glomerulus. What is glomerulus? It's a network of blood capillaries, and it is placed in a cup-shaped depression called the Bowman's capsule. Right? Now, the blood flows into the glomerulus through the renal artery, and it flows out of it through the renal vein. Okay, there's renal vein which is separately supplied and moves out through the efferent arteriole. There's another thing. That's another thing. And then glomerulus is broken down into lots of capillaries. And why is this filtration happening over here? Working of nephron. Okay. Bazila, there's a time constraint. Let me see, like how I'm able to explain. Okay, within the time frame. Okay. Yes. So the blood, when it enters into the renal artery, it's entering at a high blood pressure. There's a lot of pressure, right? Yes. And because of this pressure, filtration is happening. Okay. Since it's a great pressure which is given into the glomerulus, the blood gets filtered and all the waste materials along with all the water will be moving into the Bowman's capsule. Okay. And now this filtrate, which is settled in the Bowman's capsule, is going to move further downward through this tubular part of the nephron. And as this filtrate is moving through the tubular part of the nephron, some materials get secreted, some materials gets absorbed back into the body. All of these kind of things are going to happen. Now, which all are the substances that are going to get absorbed back into the body while the filtrate is moving through the tubule? Water. Glucose.
Nutrients.
Yes, some essential minerals, okay, salts and everything. If they are required by your body, they'll be reabsorbed back into our body. And what all things are secreted into the filtrate? Urea is secreted into the filtrate, and also excess salts, if they are there in the body, they'll also be secreted into the filtrate. Okay. Yes. So all those kind of things are happening. And once the filtrate is fully formed, it is collected over here in the collecting duct. Okay. It gets collected in the collecting duct, and the collecting duct opens into ureter. Okay. Ureter. What is ureter? Ureter is the tube that connects the kidney to your urinary bladder, right? So once the what do you say, the urine is formed in the kidney, it has to be transported into the urinary bladder, and that happens through the ureter. There are left and right ureter. This structure is really important. Study this diagram properly. They might ask you to draw it and label the parts. Okay, so study this properly. Now the urinary bladder is a muscular organ which can contract. Okay, and that causes the delivery of the urine through the opening called the urethra. Now the blood is pumped into the heart through, the kidney through the renal artery, and blood goes out of it through the renal vein, and rest of the things are clear, I think. Right? Yes. Okay. Now that's about the nephron. Okay. So this entire thing which is given over here, I have given you a summary regarding it, and now try to read this thing. You will be able to understand. Okay. Bazila, I hope you understood some things. Yes. All right. Now about the artificial kidney or the hemodialysis. In which kind of people is this artificial kidney used? Who are going to use it? Those people whose kidneys are not functioning properly, they'll have to rely on artificial kidney, or they'll have to go for this process called hemodialysis, right? And what is done in hemodialysis, guys? There is a dialysing machine, right? Dialysing machine contains dialysing solution in it. Okay, and when the patient's blood is transported through this dialysing machine, what happens? The blood is getting purified. All the waste products in the blood is moving into the dialysing fluid by the process of diffusion. By diffusion, all the waste materials moves into the dialysing fluid, and once the blood is purified, what would happen? It's pumped back into the patient's body. Okay, now it's somewhat similar to that of the function of the kidney, but there's only one difference, that is no reabsorption of materials is happening over here. What substances are reabsorbed? Glucose gets reabsorbed back into our body, water gets reabsorbed, essential salts gets reabsorbed if it's naturally occurring in the kidney. But also those kind of things are not going to happen over here. That's not possible, right? It's a machine. Okay, and then once the blood is purified, it's taken back into the heart. All right. Yes. Now about the excretion in plants. Do plants excrete? Of course, they excrete, right? By the process of transpiration, they are getting rid of excess water. And by the process of, through the stomata, they are releasing excess oxygen, they are releasing carbon dioxide. All these kind of things are happening through the stomata. And then when they can release some of the waste materials directly into the soil around them. Okay, and waste products are stored in the leaves, and once they fall off, all those kind of waste products are eliminated. And then the resins and gums which are formed in the plant body, they are all the waste materials, they get settled in the xylem. Okay, that's about the excretion in the plants. Is it clear, guys? We have done the chapter. We are done with the life process chapter. It was a quick revision, I know, and I hope you guys understood. Is it clear? Tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Huh? Exact 1 hour. I know it takes 1 hour for the chapter. What to do? All right, we'll move quickly. We have 2 more hours, right? And we have 4 more chapters. All right. Yes, we'll do it. Now about the life processes. Okay. We'll just go through some PYQs. Okay, some PYQs. 2 green plants are kept separately in oxygen-free containers, one in dark and other in sunlight. It was observed that the plants kept in dark could not survive longer. Give reason for this observation. Guys, if you are able to take a screenshot, if you have a provision to take the screenshot, you can take the screenshot, because if you're going to write each of these things, it's going to take a lot of time. We are just going to go through these questions quickly. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, yeah. So what's the answer for the first question? Give reason for this observation. The plant which was kept in dark could not survive longer. What is it? They cannot photosynthesize, right? Because they are deprived of sunlight. They are kept in a dark room. They could not survive. Okay, they were kept in oxygen-free containers. One was in dark and the other one was in sunlight. Okay, the one in sunlight could photosynthesize. So oxygen was released. It could use that oxygen itself for respiration also, though it was kept in an oxygen-free container. Okay, so if sunlight is deprived, photosynthesis cannot happen and the plant cannot survive. Guys, keep your videos on. At least somebody keep your video on. I just want to know if you guys are there. Or just give me a thumbs up quickly so as to know if you guys are listening. Yes. All right. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Yes. Now, the second question is the event that take place during the process of photosynthesis in the proper sequence. All the 3 steps that we discussed. Yes, you know it, no?
Taking of carbon dioxide,
Right, right.
water
Yes,
from both,
yes. All,
taking of sunlight.
yeah, correct, correct. All the three processes. Huh? Yes, splitting and then conversion of that light energy into chemical energy. That is conversion, formation of glucose. Okay, now third question. With the help of an activity, explain the action of saliva on the food we eat. We discussed about the activity. Test tube 1, test tube 2, starch in it, saliva added to one of them, then the iodine test, that's it. What is why is bile juice important in the process of digestion? It makes it with the it makes it alkaline, and also it helps in emulsification of fats. Okay. Now fourth one, write two different ways in which glucose is oxidized to produce provide energy in the human body that the products formed in each cases. Two different ways in which human body, it's happening in human body. Don't write about yeast over here. Okay, so glucose converted to pyruvate, it can be converted into lactic acid if it's anaerobic. If it's aerobic, carbon dioxide is produced in the mitochondria. That's what you need to write over here. You can use a flowchart to represent over here. Okay, diffusion is insufficient to meet the oxygen requirement of multicellular organisms like humans. State the reason. We already said not all the cells are exposed to the outer atmosphere, so diffusion cannot happen. We are complex organisms. We need a separate system, right? I told you about this initially. Now differentiate between autotrophs and heterotrophs. Give examples for each. Simple question you can answer. Describe the process of nutrition in amoeba with the help of diagram. Discuss diagram explanation. Both are required. What is double circulation? Okay, you know it. The pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation you have to write. Why is the separation of right and left side of the heart useful? Because it prevents the mixing of the blood, and also it helps in maintaining the constant temperature. How does it help in birds and mammals? You know it. That's what is said over here. The maintenance of constant body temperature and efficient supply of oxygen to all parts of the body. Say the role played by the following in the process of digestion. Trypsin. Say quickly. Come on. Digestion of proteins. Lipase. Fats, breaking down lipids into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, list two functions of finger-like projections in the small intestine. So first you need to mention what these finger-like projections.
They provide a larger surface area for the.
Yeah, correct. Yes, they are villi. They provide larger surface area for the absorption of digested food materials into the bloodstream. Describe the structure and function of basic filtering unit of the kidney, which is the basic filtering unit of the kidney, nephron, and then write about its
Nephron.
structure. Okay, and then list two factors on which absorption of water from the urine depends. Two factors on which absorption of water from the urine depends. Huh?
The amount of waste to be decreased.
The requirement of our body. Yes. Then, yeah. Jahanara.
Amount of dissolved waste materials in the body.
Amount of dissolved waste materials in our body. Okay. These are the two factors. Okay. That are going to determine how much water should be absorbed back into us. If there are lots of waste materials, the water has to be eliminated so that that much amount of urine can be eliminated. Okay. And if your body is deprived of water, if it requires more amount of water, reabsorption keeps on happening. Okay. Now, what causes the movement of food inside the alimentary canal in human beings? Peristalsis. Peristalsis happens. Okay. Write about it. Then explain the ways in which glucose is broken down in the absence or storage of oxygen. You know it. Okay, in case of yeast cells and in case of the human beings, lactic acid formation, you can write it. Write two water conducting tissues present in plants. How does the water enter continuously into the root xylem? Explain why plants have low energy needs as compared to animals. 3 questions. Quickly. Write two water conducting tissues. Yes, the root and the xylem. The root help in absorption and conduction to the base of the stem, and then the xylem help in conducting it upward. How does water enter continuously into the root? Into the root xylem. Xylem. How does it enter into the xylem? Root pressure and transpiration. Okay, both the things. Explain why plants have low energy needs as compared to animals. Because animals are, yes, plants are sessile. They don't need to move around in order to search for food. They can prepare their own food materials. That's why the energy requirement is less. Now, write the 3 points of difference between breathing and respiration. We said about it. Breathing is simply the exchange of gases happening. It's only the lungs which is involved in the breathing process. But in respiration, all the body cells are involved. It happens in the mitochondria. Okay, and you have to say that energy is obtained after the respiration. There is no energy obtained after breathing. Okay, all those other differences. List 4 functions of human heart. 4 functions of human heart.
Oxygen, deoxygenated blood from the body.
It helps in separating oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. It helps in oxygenation of deoxygenated blood by pumping it into the lungs, and it helps in transporting oxygenated blood all through the body. It also helps in maintaining the pressure within the blood pressure within the body. It helps in the transportation of hormones, right? It helps in the continuous circulation of hormones all through our body, right? Hormones are other valuable, useful materials. Okay, all those are the functions of human heart. Write 3 types of blood vessels, give one important feature of each. Write about artery, vein, and capillary and give their functions. Okay, draw the diagram of human alimentary canal. See this question. Draw the diagram of human alimentary canal and label the following. The part in which starch digestion is initiated. Which is a part? Buccal cavity. Very good. The mouth cavity is a part where the digestion is initiated. Organ in which bile is stored.
Gallbladder.
Very good. Gallbladder. The gland that secretes digestive enzyme as well as hormones.
Pancreas.
Pancreas. Yes. Pancreas has got dual function, right? It was acting as an exocrine gland as well as an endocrine gland. We'll discuss about it in control and coordination chapter in detail. Parts of alimentary canal where water is reabsorbed.
Large intestine.
Large intestine. Yes. The part of gut where finger-like projections are present to facilitate. Yes. The
Villi.
part. Yes. Villi are the finger-like projections. Part of gut where finger-like projections are present. Small intestine. Yes. State the location and function of gastric glands. They are located in the
Pancreas.
stomach walls. Gastric glands they are. Not about the pancreatic things. Gastric glands. They are located at the stomach wall and they function. They help in secreting mucus. They help in secreting pepsin, HCl. All of these are the functions. Now, in single-celled organisms, diffusion is sufficient. Yeah, we discussed about it. Why is it that we have a respiratory system in multicellular organisms? That's clear, no? This question is clear, right? Okay. Mention any 2 components of the blood, trace a movement of oxygenated blood in the body. 2 components of the blood. The blood plasma, which is a fluid component of the blood, and there are blood cells, RBC, WBC, platelet, anything you can write.
WBC.
Any 2 components you can write. Okay. Now, about the movement of oxygenated blood in the body. How is the oxygenated blood moving? Begin with the left atrium. Yeah. From the lung. Yeah. We'll begin with the lungs. From the lungs, the oxygenated blood is transported into the left atrium through the pulmonary vein, and then it is moving into the left ventricle. So there is a valve that is a bicuspid valve, and from the left ventricle, when the semilunar valve open, it moves into
It goes through the
yeah, it goes into the aorta and then it reaches all parts of the body. Right? That's about the transportation of oxygenated blood in the body. Okay. Next chapter, control and coordination chapter. Okay. Control and coordination. Yes. Another major chapter. I don't know how much time I'm going to take for this chapter. Anyways, we'll go through them quickly. Okay. Yes. Animals, first the nervous system. The very first diagram in this chapter, really important. We are going to ask you to draw it and mark the important parts and write their functions. Okay, so study the neuron structure properly, and also the structure of the synapse is important. Okay, what is synapse? Synapse is a junction between 2 neurons, and when we speak about the structure of neuron, it has got dendrites. What's the function of dendrite? Helps in receiving the impulses from the neighboring neuron, and there's a cell body in which the nucleus is contained, and there's a long fiber. What is it called? Axon. Yes, axon has got, in some of the neurons, the axon is covered by an insulating sheath. What is it called?
Myelin sheath.
Myelin sheath. Yes, and it's an insulating sheath.
Bits
What
of
is the-
my
Yes, myelin sheath. It helps in faster conduction of the impulses, right? Yes, wherever it acts as an insulator, it helps in faster conduction of impulses. And there is the nerve ending. What is the significance of nerve ending? What does it contain? What does the axonal terminal contain? What does the nerve ending contain? Neurotransmitters. The chemical substances called neurotransmitters are contained in the nerve endings. Okay. Now, before we move on to the synapse, we need to speak about the receptors. Osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is the maintenance of water levels and also the temperature conditions in our body. And it's the kidney that is mainly concerned with the osmoregulation in our body. Okay, osmoregulation means water balance. All right, Sana?
yes.
Yes, all right. Okay. Now, about the receptors. Yeah. So tell me about the names of the receptors. Where can you find the phonoreceptors? Phonoreceptors. In the ears. Photoreceptors. Where can you find photoreceptors? In the eyes. Yes,
Eyes.
right. Then gustatory receptors. In the tongue. Olfactory receptors. In the nose. Where can you find thigmoreceptors? Skin. Thermoreceptors. Again in the skin. Okay, all these were the things, no? Yes. All right. So those are the receptors which are going to help you receive the stimuli and they'll be transported to the central nervous system. Okay. And then about the parts of the neuron that was discussed, and then about the synapse. What is happening at the synapse, guys? It's a junction between the two neurons, and what is happening at the synapse, guys? Tell me. Conversion of electrical impulse into chemical impulse is happening, and then the diffusion of the chemicals into the next neurons, dendrite or the receptors, and over there it's again converted back into electrical impulses. Okay, that's what is happening at the synapse. Conversion of electrical impulse into chemical impulse, and then chemical impulse is converted back into the electrical impulses. That happens at the synapse. Now, about the reflex action, can anybody say what a reflex action is? Yeah.
It is involuntary,
unconscious, involuntary response to a particular stimulus so as to protect our body from a dangerous situation, right? It's controlled mainly by the spinal cord. Yes. Now, the pathway through which the reflex action is operated is called the reflex arc. Okay, everything is important related to the reflex arc. Okay, study those things properly. That's what is discussed over here about the reflex arc and things. Okay, now the pathway through which reflex arc functions. This diagram is important. Okay, study this diagram. Labeling, everything is important. Study this properly. Okay.
Instead of trying to see what's in the easier by.
Yeah, just a flow chart. But if they're asking you to use a schematic diagram, you have to use it. Okay. Yeah, schematic diagram. All right. Yes. Okay. So there's a receptor. There's a, what is the stimulus over here? Heat or pain is a receptor. I mean, the stimulus, and the receptors are located in the skin. And from the receptors, it's going to travel into the spinal cord through the sensory neuron. And sensory neuron is such kind of a neuron that help in transmitting impulses from the sense organs to your central nervous system. And then in the central nervous system, there is a relay neuron. What is the other name for relay neuron? Interneuron, right? Yes, interneuron or association neuron or relay neuron, any name you can use. Okay, and then what happens from the interneuron? The information is processed and it's moving into the motor neuron. Motor neuron supplies the information into effectors of your body. Effectors can be muscles or glands, remember. Okay, muscles or glands are the effectors in your body. All right. Okay, now about the human brain. Somebody tell me about the parts of human brain quickly. Come on, who can say? Online students, anybody?
Brain.
Yes, Jahanara.
Forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain.
Forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay, which all are the parts of forebrain?
Forebrain consists of cerebrum and
cerebrum, olfactory receptors, all the receptors, major receptors, right? Yes, yes. The hearing, the region for hearing, smell, sight, all of them are located in the forebrain region. And then, what is the other significance of the cerebrum? How does cerebrum help? Thinking, learning, memorizing, language comprehension, all of these kind of things. Yes, yes. Storage, everything is concerned with the forebrain. Now, what about the midbrain and hindbrain? And also they control all the voluntary actions, okay? Yes. Yeah, they help in maintaining all the involuntary actions in our body. And then which all are the parts contained in the hindbrain region? There is a pons, medulla, and cerebellum. This leaf-like portion is the cerebellum. What's the significance of cerebellum, guys?
Balance.
Correct. It helps in maintaining the balance and posture. That's why you're able to sit erect, you're able to stand, you're able to walk. All these are because of the proper functioning of the cerebellum. What about the pons and medulla? What is pons concerned with? It's concerned with the maintenance of respiration, the rate of respiration. What about medulla, guys? Medulla helps in controlling all the involuntary actions like vomiting, sneezing, coughing, all of those kind of things are regulated by the medulla portion. Okay, then we have got hypothalamus and pituitary gland also in the brain. Okay, hypothalamus is regulatory in action. Pituitary gland also has got functions like it helps in releasing growth hormone and other kind of things. We'll discuss that in the endocrine plan. And then from the base portion of the brain, you have your spinal cord, right? From the brain stem region, the spinal cord arises and it's moving through the vertebral column all the way down. Okay, so the central nervous system is composed of the brain and spinal cord. Okay, and then we have the peripheral nervous system, right? What does the peripheral nervous system comprise? Anybody? Cranial nerves and spinal nerves, right? All the nerves arising from the brain and the spinal cord composed are there in the peripheral nervous system. And also peripheral nervous system has got one more region, that is autonomic nervous system. In autonomic nervous system, all the nerves are supplied to the internal organs in your body. Okay, remember that also, internal organs in your body. Okay, now all those kind of activities, all those things are discussed over here. Now about the how is the brain protected, guys? There is a cerebrospinal fluid. There are meninges. There are layers called meninges. In between the meninges, there is a cerebrospinal fluid that is going to absorb all the mechanical shocks and damages. And also there's one more major thing that is protecting your brain. What is it? Skull or the cranium, right? The cranium or the brain box or the skull. That's a major thing which is protecting your brain. All right. Okay. Okay. Now, moving on. How does the nervous tissue cause the action? Yes. So there's a neuromuscular junction also, right? When the nerves receive some impulses, it's all transported and finally it reaches the effector or the muscles where the muscle is contracted or relaxed in order to help you move your muscle and respond to the stimulus. Okay, that's about it. And then reflex action, lots of examples are there. Study all the examples properly, okay, for the reflex action. And now about the coordination in plants. Do the plants coordinate? Yes. How do they coordinate various activities? How do they coordinate? Quickly. Say quickly.
Tropic movement and nastic movement.
Yes, they exhibit certain movements called the trophic and nastic movements, and also they have phytohormones or the plant hormones. They are also helping in the coordination, right? Yes, and immediate response to the stimulus happens in the plants also, right? Nasty that happens in the touch me not plant. It's an example for such kind of an activity. It's sensitive to touch. There's a change in the turgor pressure inside the cells because of which water is moving out and the leaves are shrinking. Okay, that's about it. And then movement due to growth is called tropic movement, right? Against or away from a particular stimulus. Okay, away or towards the stimulus. Now, this picture, what is it showing? What does it depict? Which is the stimulus over here? Yes, this is phototropism, right? Unidirectional light is given and you'll find the plant to be, the shoot portion of the plant to be bending towards right and root will be moving away from the right? So roots are negatively phototropic, whereas the shoot is positively phototropic. Now, which is this activity? The plant shows geotropism, right? Which part of the plant is positively geotropic, guys? Roots are positively geotropic, yes, and the shoot is negatively geotropic. So even if you place your plant horizontally, the shoot is always going to grow upward and the root is going to grow downward. Okay, remember that. And then, which all are the other types of tropic movements? What is hydrotropism? Movement of the plant parts in response to water. Yes, roots are positively hydrotropic, whereas the shoot are negative. Now, chemotropism, example.
Pollen tube.
Pollen tube, growth of pollen tube through the female part of the plant, right, into the ovary. It is because of the chemicals released from the ovary. That's what is leading the growth of the pollen tube into it. Okay, so those are the examples for the chemotropism. And then about the yes. Okay, so electrical impulses help us to respond to a particular stimulus so quickly, but still we have another system, right? We have got an endocrine system. What are the reasons for having such an additional system in our body? Why do we have the endocrine system?
Because electrical impulses does not reach
Electrical
every
impulses or the nerves are not connected to each and every cells in the body, and also electrical impulses once generated in a neuron, now it will require some time to reset its mechanism before it can generate and transmit new impulses. These are the two reasons. See, study the reasons properly, okay? First and second reasons, you have to study them properly. So in that, because of that reason, we need another system, which is the endocrine system, which is going to secrete hormones. Hormones are going to reach all parts of your body through the bloodstream, and also it does not require a resetting mechanism and other kind of things. It can quickly respond to the particular stimulus by being released from the glands. Okay, that's the significance of the endocrine system. Okay, moving quickly about the plants. Okay, now which all are the hormones present in the plant body? Examples: auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, abscisic acid, yes, and ethylene. Yes, ethylene. Yes, ethylene is a ripening hormone, right? It causes the ripening of the yes, abscisic acid also is an inhibitor of growth. Ethylene and abscisic acid are inhibitors of growth, right? Abscisic acid, what are the effects of abscisic acid? Yes, it causes the wilting of the leaves. It causes Yeah, it causes the dormancy of the buds. It causes the closure of the stomata so that the plant can withstand the extreme conditions. Now, what about the auxins?
It helps in
It helps in growth by helping in elongation of the cells. Gibberellins also help in the growth of the plants, in increasing the height of the plant and helping, yeah, stem and branches. Gibberellins are important. What about cytokinins, guys?
Cell division.
Cell division.
Yes, they help in cell division. Cytokinesis means cell division. The meaning of the term is cell division. Okay. So the cell division in parts like regions where rapid cell division has to happen, like the fruit or the seed, it has to grow rapidly when compared to rest of the plant part. Okay. So in those regions, cytokinins are secreted. Now, what is the property of auxins, guys? What is the nature of auxin when it's exhibited to light?
Also, there is
Yes, auxins are light sensitive. This is really important. Study this paragraph properly. Okay, really important about the mechanism of action of auxin when it gets exposed to light. Okay, auxins get deposited at the shady portion of the shoot tip, and that causes that causes the elongation of the cells wherever the auxin is present, and that gives an appearance like the plant is bending towards the light. Okay, that's the activity of auxin. Ripening plant hormone, it is ethylene, ETHYLENE. Oh my God. Okay. This is a hormone. Okay. Yes. Now guys, hormones in animals. Okay. We'll directly go to this diagram. Okay. Yes. So what is the function of pituitary gland? Pituitary gland is called the master gland. It is going to regulate the functioning of other glands, and the major secretion from the pituitary gland is, tell me quickly. Growth hormone. Growth hormone helps in elongation of bones. It helps in cell division. It helps in the proper growth of an organism. Now, the disorders. We'll speak about the disorders also. If there is excess secretion of growth hormone in the childhood, what does it cause? It causes gigantism. And if there is under secretion, what happens?
Dwarfism.
All right. Yes, correct. Now, what about the hypothalamus? Hypothalamus releases lots of regulatory hormones. Okay, lots of regulatory hormones that are going to regulate the function of other glands is going to be released by the hypothalamus. Now, what about pineal gland, guys? Pineal gland. Pineal gland, quickly. Yes, it controls a sleep-wake cycle. We have got a biological clock, right? Yes, in order to maintain the biological rhythm, the pineal gland is functioning, and the secretion of the pineal gland is called melatonin. Okay, melatonin. Melatonin is the secretion of the pineal gland. Now about the thyroid gland. What is the secretion of thyroid gland called? Thyroxine. Yes, and then parathyroid gland releases parathormone. Now, what is the function of thyroid gland? I mean, yeah, it helps in maintaining the metabolism. Okay, it helps in maintaining the metabolic activities in our body, the thyroxine. Now, which is the mineral ion which is required for the proper functioning of the iodine? It's really required. If iodine is not there in our diet, it would lead to goiter. Yes, correct. Okay. Now about the parathyroid gland, it releases parathormone. What is the function of parathormone? Parathormone helps in maintaining the calcium levels in our body. Okay, calcium levels in our body. Now what about the thymus? Thymus is going to secrete a hormone called, which is a hormone secreted by thymus. Thymus is going to secrete thymosin. Okay, thymosin. Now, what is the significance of thymosin? Thymosin helps in maturation of your WBC so that they can attack the pathogens. Okay, maturation of WBCs, especially the T lymphocytes. T lymphocytes gets matured over here in the thymus. Okay, and thymosin is helping in the process of this maturation. So you can say that it basically is concerned with the function of immunity. It imparts immunity to your body. Now, about the adrenal glands, which is a secretion of adrenal glands. Say quickly.
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline is otherwise called the fight or flight hormone. Okay, it helps in fighting or flying away from a scary situation or some kind of dangerous situation. Okay, now what about pancreas? A leaf-shaped gland, pancreas. What all are the secretions of pancreas?
Insulin and glucagon.
Insulin and glucagon. What is insulin concerned with? It reduces the blood glucose levels. What about glucagon? Increases the blood glucose levels. It breaks down glycogen and causes increase in the levels of glucose in the blood. Now, these hormones, insulin and glucagon, are called antagonistic hormones because they are opposite in their action. Remember, okay, antagonistic hormones means they are opposite in their action. Now, when we speak about the male and female reproductive parts, there's the testes. Testes, how is it acting as an endocrine gland, guys? Say quickly.
Hormone.
Yes, it produces the hormone testosterone, or the male hormone is produced, which is responsible for the production of the sperms and in other secondary sexual characteristics of males. What about ovary? Ovary help in releasing female, yes, the female hormones, which are the estrogen and progesterone. Okay, and they also help in the release of the egg and in the exhibition of the female secondary sexual characteristics. We have discussed the entire thing. I'm moving. Okay, now if insulin is lesser in your body, it leads to a condition called diabetes. Okay, and yes, and you have to take insulin injections. Okay, in order to satisfy the insulin requirements in your body, you can fill the table, and yes, and that's it. That's it. Okay, is it clear, guys? Shall we move on to the questions? Shall we move on to
Yes.
questions? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Control and coordination. A squirrel in a scary situation, its body has to prepare for either fight or running away. Say the immediate changes that take place in the body so that the squirrel is able to fight. Yeah. What are the changes happening when
Adrenaline
Heart
gland
beats faster.
heart
secreted
beats faster, blood pressure increases,
fat.
rate of breathing increases, pupil dilates, then
And the muscles,
muscles begin to contract. The supply of the blood towards the gut decreases. The more blood is supplied towards the muscles. Then in case of human beings, you can say that we'll begin to sweat, all of those kind of things. But this is about the squirrel. Don't write it there. They'll begin to sweat. Okay, don't do it. Okay, now, okay, so write about the adrenaline. Okay, and then write about its effect. Now, how is the mode of action in beating heart different from reflex actions? Give 4 examples.
beating of heart is
What about reflex action? That is also involuntary.
the heart is controlled by the
Beating of heart is regulated.
Heart can function on its own, right? Heart is myogenic in nature. It beats on its own. But what about reflex action? It's controlled by the spinal cord. Okay, and then the beating of the heart, it happens all the time, irrespective of the situation. What about reflex action? It only happens, yeah, in order to protect your body from a particular situation that is a dangerous kind of a situation, you can say. Okay, and then you can give examples. Give 4 examples, and then you can explain. Okay, give any 4 examples of reflex action and the normal case of heartbeat, like how it's varied. In reflex action, the heartbeat can get increased, whereas in the normal cases, the heartbeat is not going to increase that much. There is a constant rhythm which is maintained. Okay, in such a way, you can explain. Okay, already this question was asked in the previous year. All right. Now, why is a chemical communication better than electrical impulse as a means of communication between cells in the multicellular organisms? We said about 2 reasons, right? Yeah, the chemical communication is better because hormones reaches all parts of your body, and also they can be released as and when required. It's not like they need a reset mechanism or resetting time so that they can be transmitted again. Okay, yes, is it clear, guys? Online students following?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, all right. Now the 4th question. A cheetah, on seeing a prey, moves towards him at very high speed. What causes the movement of his muscles? How does the chemistry of cellular components of the muscles changes? You have to write about both the neuronal and the endocrinal mechanism over here. Adrenaline release will of course happen, and then the nerves are also, the sight of the prey is a stimulus for this organism. Okay, it's going to increase the heart rate, it's going to affect the muscle contraction, all of those kind of things are going to happen. Brain is also involved over here so as to maintain its movement. Both these things have to be written, neuronal as well as the endocrinal mechanism. Yes. Okay, all those things have to be explained properly. I think this was a 3-mark question. Now, what constitutes the central and peripheral? What constitutes the central and peripheral nervous system? How are the components of the nervous system protected? Which signals will get disrupted in case of spinal cord injury? Yeah, which all are the constituents of central and peripheral nervous system? Central nervous system is composed of brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system is composed of cranial nerves and spinal nerves, and also all the autonomic nervous system, wherein the neurons are supplied to internal organs. Okay, that's what is to be written.
We still like decide
What?
we just write
Cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Yes. Okay. Okay, you can include this also. Okay. Now, how are the components of nervous system protected? You have to write like the brain is protected by the cranium, cerebrospinal fluid, meninges, everything. And then about the spinal cord is protected inside the vertebral column. Over there also there is a cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid, that means it's there associated with the spines also. Okay. Yes. Now which signal will get disrupted in case of spinal cord injury? Tell me. Signals. Why is there total silence?
Signals.
Spinal cord injury. Yeah, tell me. Spinal cord is injured. Pooja. Pooja, tell me the answer. Okay, no one is answering. Oh, is this that hard? It's about spinal cord injury only, right? Yeah. Advait, yes, tell me.
Ma'am, reflex action won't work.
Reflex responses gets disrupted. You won't be able to perform any reflex action. And also all the nerves arising from the spinal cord, they are distributed to your arms and your legs, right? Will any of them function? You will be in a paralyzed state. Okay, all your coordination and the other kind of activities are going to get affected. You won't be able to move your hands and legs. Okay, now the sixth question. Name a hormone secreted by pituitary, thyroid, stating one main function of each. Growth hormone and then thyroxine. You can write about the functions of each. Name the disorder if a person is likely to suffer due to the deficiency of above mentioned hormone. Gigantism or dwarfism, anything you can write. Okay. Due to deficiency, then it is dwarfism. And thyroid? Yeah, thyroxine is not secreted. Goiter. Yes. How is the timing and amount of hormone release regulated? Explain with an example. Yeah, we didn't discuss about it. Insulin is taken as an example. Feedback mechanism has to be written. Okay. What is feedback mechanism, guys? Controlling the release and the release of a particular hormone from a gland by the mechanism in which lots of cells are involved. That's a feedback mechanism. Okay. A feedback is given to the particular gland and it's asking the gland to stop the secretion of a particular hormone when it's not required in a body. I'll give you you can state the example of the secretion of insulin, right? So when you have a meal and after the digestion of the food materials, there's a lot of glucose in your bloodstream. After the food is absorbed, there's a shoot up in the level of glucose in the blood and it has to be brought back to normal, right? And for that, what is happening? Pancreas is going to release the hormone called insulin. When insulin is released into the bloodstream, insulin is going to enhance the take-up of glucose into the liver and the muscle cells, right? And so the blood glucose levels return back into normal. Now what is supposed to be done? Insulin should no more be secreted by the pancreas. So the pancreas detects that the insulin levels, glucose levels have reached the normal. And then what will it do? It will stop the secretion of insulin because it received the feedback that glucose levels have come to the normal levels. Yes. Yes, there is a gland. It's into the pancreas. Pancreas is a gland over here. It's into the pancreas that Yeah, that's what. When there is a surge in the glucose levels, there is an immediate release in the hormone. Okay, until the levels of glucose becomes normalized, the amount of hormone release will keep on. The amount of hormone release will be keeping on happening. And once it reaches normal, once the blood glucose levels reaches normal, it stopped. The amount of hormone released is stopped. Okay, is it clear? All right, online students, that's a feedback mechanism. I hope it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now the seventh question. What is nerve impulse? Say the direction followed by the nerve impulse while traveling in the body of an organism. What is nerve impulse? It's a chemical impulse, electrical impulse, right? Yes. And it is transported through the neurons from one part of the body to another part of the body, right? Yes. And it helps in responding to the stimuli. Now say the direction of flow of nerve impulse through the body of an organism. Yeah, you have to write about the pathway. That's what is meant over here. Okay, there's a receptor, there is a sensory neuron, the central nervous system, interneuron, motor neuron, that thing. Okay, the pathway has to be written. Draw the diagram of a neuron and name and label all the parts and their function. You know it, neuron, all the parts. Yeah, dendron, axon, the cell body, the axonal terminal, all of those kind of things. Now, why does the flow of the signal in a synapse from the axonal end of one neuron to the dendritic end of another neuron take place, but not in the reverse direction? Explain. Yeah. Say quickly, quickly. Who's going to give the answer for this question? Yeah, anybody, online students. Say, why is not the impulse transmission happening in the reverse direction? Ashley.
It's a unidirectional synapse.
Yes, Ashley. Simple question. Come on. Who can answer? Abel? Noel. Yeah. The flow of signals in the synapse, it's from the axonal end to the dendritic end. It's not in the reverse direction. Why is it so?
Unidirectional.
Why is it so?
Because
It's unidirectional. Why is it so? Because the neurotransmitters are present only in the axonal end. It's not present at the dendritic end. Okay. For the impulses to be transported from one neuron to another, there is the release of neurotransmitter happening. Neurotransmitters are present only at the axonal end. They are not present at the dendritic end. In the dendritic end, there are only receptors which can receive the neurotransmitter. Okay. That's the reason that you're supposed to write over here. This is important. You might get this question this time. All right. Yeah. Why is the flow not happening in the reverse direction? Explain. Now list in tabular form 3 distinguishing features between cerebrum and cerebellum. Yeah. Say quickly.
Cerebrum is in the
forebrain region, thinking part, memorizing part, all those kind of things, controlling the voluntary responses also.
Posture and the
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, in the hindbrain region, it helps in maintaining balanced posture and everything. Okay, write about all those factors. State the function of each of the following plant hormones. Gibberellins, increasing the growth of stem and branches. Auxins helps in elongation of the cells. Abscisic acid helps in it causes the wilting of the leaves. It causes the closure of the stomatal pores. Yes, all of those kind of things.
But dormancy.
What's Anna?
Abscisic acid affects the bud dormancy also.
Yes. Buds will remain dormant, right? In unfavorable conditions, buds should not germinate. Main function of auxin, it helps in the growth of the shoot tip and the root tip regions. They are found to be there in the root tip and the shoot tip. But if there is a unidirectional light, it goes to the shady region. Okay. Now, sensory and motor neurons, write their function. You know it. Sensory and motor neurons, how they are different. Sensory neurons carry impulses from the sense organs to the central nervous system. Motor neuron, which is in the reverse direction towards the effectors. They are carrying the things. And those are the interneurons or the relay neurons. Okay. Now, different parts of the brain are associated with specific function. Name the parts of the human brain which perform the following functions. Sensation of feeling full.
Center of hunger.
Which one? Jahanara?
Of hunger.
The sensation of feeling full, it is initiated by the hypothalamus. Okay. Thirst, hunger, everything is associated with the hypothalamus. Okay. Vomiting. Medulla. Yes. Now name the part of the human brain which controls voluntary and involuntary actions. The forebrain controls the voluntary actions mainly. Involuntary action, also the cerebellum controls some voluntary actions. Involuntary actions are controlled by midbrain and hindbrain. Now explain with an example how the timing and amount of hormones secreted are regulated in the body. Again, feedback mechanism. Write insulin as the example. Okay. Then how does the feedback, again, hormone feedback mechanism, really important. Study this feedback mechanism properly, okay, with the help of an example. Now draw a diagram of cross-sectional view of human brain, label the parts. If you're lucky enough, you might get this question this time also. It was asked in 2017, it was asked in 2020. What if they ask in 2024? Who nobody knows. Okay. Yes. Now with the help of suitable examples, explain the terms phototropism, geotropism, and chemotropism. Suitable examples they are asking. Okay. Phototropism, bending of the shoot towards the light. Geotropism, bending of root and shoot. You can draw that horizontal diagram. And chemotropism, draw the growth of pollen tube towards the ovary. The space is lacking over here. That's it. Okay. Now the absence of muscle cells. How do the plants show the movement? They do not have muscles, right? How do they show the movement then? They have got, they can respond to various kind of stimuli by tropic and nastic movements, and also they have got the phytohormones to regulate their movement to various directions. Yes, loss of water and gain of water. That also is the cause of movement of various parts. Now, name a plant hormone. Give some examples also, okay? Give some examples. Okay, the touch me not plant and everything you can give as examples. Now, name a plant hormone responsible for the bending of the shoot of a plant when it's exposed to unidirectional light. Auxin. How does it promote phototropism? Explain the activity of auxin. It gets accumulated in the shady region. It causes the elongation of the cells in those region, and it causes the appearance that it's bending towards the light. Now 20. Define geotropism. You know it. Draw the label diagram of the plant showing geotropic movement of the plant part. You know it. The diagram you have to draw. Is it clear, guys? All the questions? Were you able to answer all the questions?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the example for?
Yes. Are you all there? Siraj.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Malavya.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Huh?
Yes.
Example for chemotropism, growth of pollen tube towards the ovary. This one. This picture. Okay, how do organisms reproduce? There are no other examples. Study that example. That's the example. Okay, now do the organisms create exact copies of themselves? You studied them properly. Okay, you don't need to go beyond. Okay, do the exact organisms create exact copies of themselves? What do you think? No, they do not create exact copies of themselves. Even in asexually reproducing organisms, there are chances for mutation to happen, and that can create variations. In sexually reproducing organisms, there are more amount of variations because there are two individuals whose genetic genome is getting mixed, and that is going to give rise to the next generation. Okay, so about the significance of variations and everything, importance of variation. What is the importance of variation? Variation leads to evolution, and also it helps in selecting better individuals that are fit to survive. Okay, the useful variations get selected, they'll get survival advantage, and you get assertion recent question based on it. Do organisms with all variations have equal chances of survival? No, only useful variations will give you equal chance of, will give you chances for the survival. If they are useless variations, those are going to get eliminated from the nature. Okay, all those kind of things you can go through about the bacteria living at temperate waters, like how they become resistant over time. All those kind of things are given over here in variation part. Okay, read the example. Then mode of reproduction using single-celled organism. Which all are the modes of reproduction in single organisms?
Fragmentation.
Binary fission, multiple fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding,
Budding.
spore formation,
Vegetative propagation.
vegetative
Spore
propagation.
formation.
Okay. Yes, all of these are asexual modes of reproduction. Fission are of two types: asexual, binary fission and multiple fission. Now, binary fission in amoeba can happen through any plane, but in leishmania it is oriented. Okay, it's oriented only in the vertical plane. Remember that. Okay, it's oriented in the vertical plane. Yes. And then about the plasmodium, it undergoes multiple fission. That means more than two number of individuals. Cheyenne, listen carefully. It's divided into many daughter cells simultaneously by multiple fission. Okay. Now, what about fragmentation? Example for fragmentation. Hydra. Fragmentation. Pyrogyra. Yes, Spirogyra is a typical example for fragmentation. Okay, so if a multicellular organisms, it gets fragmented into smaller pieces. Each of the piece can regenerate. It can reproduce to give rise to a whole new organism. Okay, yes. All right, that's the fragmentation process. You can read. That's a major thing. Then about regeneration.
It's when
Examples.
Planaria.
Planaria. Hydra. One more. Starfish. All of them are examples for regeneration. Now, how is regeneration different from that of due to specialized cells, right? In regeneration is carried out by specialized cells. These specialized cells proliferate to give rise to a large mass of cells, and these mass of cells will later differentiate to become various types of cells and tissues. That's how regeneration is different from that of fragmentation. Okay, not all organisms are able to regenerate themselves. There should be certain specific specialized cells in the cut portion of the body of that organism. Only if those specialized cells are present will they be able to give rise to all the lost cells. Okay.
Special cells
Regenerative cells. Now the next one is budding. Example for budding: Hydra and yeast. Yeast is also example of budding. Okay, and you should know the diagrams for each of them. If they're asking you to explain something properly, include the diagram also. Regeneration in planaria is an important diagram. Budding in the Hydra is an important diagram. Okay, so what is happening in budding? The parent body will have a projection, right? A mass of cells are formed. There's a bump on the parental body, and then it will grow further to form a small bud. This bud will then grow further to become an independent plant. It will finally get detached, independent organism by detaching from the parental body. Okay, that's about the Hydra. Now, vegetative propagation. What is the advantage of vegetative propagation? You'll get question.
mean, like same,
Yes, you'll get identical copies of the parental plant because it's an asexual kind of reproduction. Seedless plants can also be propagated by the vegetative propagation means. Okay, those are the advantages. And then, yes, grafting can be done by mixing the characteristics of two different plants can also be done in vegetative propagation. Then bryophyllum, really important. Bryophyllum, what is the peculiarity of bryophyllum? The leaf is the propagule over here. Okay, the leaf has got notches through which new plant parts can arise. If the leaf is falling on the soil, it develops into the new plant. Okay, then about the money plant also has got the stem with at least one leaf on it. It can develop into a fresh plant, a new plant. Okay, then what about the tissue culture? What's the significance of tissue culture, guys? Yes, you will get you'll get plants that are raised in disease-free conditions, and the significance is that in a smaller space you will get more number of plants. It's done in a lab condition. The tissue of certain plants are removed, and then they are grown in the artificial medium that contain nutrients, hormones, and other kind of things, and they'll mature into plants, right? In the laboratory conditions. And what about spore formation? Spore formation example is rhizopus or the bread mold is an example for spore formation. Yes. So tell me, the parts of this rhizopus. What are these spore-bearing structures called? Sporangia. Yes. And what are these? Yes. What are the root-like structures called? Hyphae. The network of hyphae is called? Network of hyphae.
Mycelium.
Mycelium, very good. The network of hyphae is called the mycelium, okay? And this structure is the blob on a stick structure. This is the reproductive part and this is the non-reproductive part, okay? Remember that. Now, what is the peculiarity of the spores? They can withstand high temperatures, they can withstand high pH, they can survive in all these unfavorable conditions. And once they get the favorable conditions, they germinate to form new fungal cells, okay? And which are the favorable conditions? Dark condition with moisture, okay? Availability of moisture. That's the surface which is right for them. And it's asexual reproduction. Now, what the sexual reproduction? Why is sexual mode of reproduction happening? So as to create more variations, more number of fit individuals can be generated by the process of sexual reproduction. DNA copying mechanism, it's not absolutely accurate. That is also going to create variations. And also you're combining the genetic material of two different individuals. That's also going to create variations. Okay. Yes. Now about the, yes, about the germ cells. The egg is non-motile. What about the sperms? Sperms are motile. Yes, they have got mitochondria. They have got the tail. Mitochondria is going to provide energy. Tail is helping it in moving forward. Okay, that's about the structure, and we'll see more about it in the lower parts. Okay, about the sexual reproduction in the flowering plants. This structure is important. They might not ask you to draw it, but the parts and everything is important. Okay, the male part is called the stamen, right? Which all are the parts of the stamen? Filament and anther. It's inside the anther that the pollen grains are produced. And then what is the process by which pollen grains lands onto the stigma, guys? Say quickly.
Pollination.
Self-pollination.
Pollination. Two types of pollination, self-pollination and cross-pollination. For cross-pollination to happen, some agents are required. Which all are the agents required for pollination? Water, wind, humans, insects, okay, some other animals, all of them are responsible for cross-pollination. You know the difference between self and cross-pollination. Okay. Yes. Now about the examples for unisexual and bisexual plants, really important. Study this, write and study this properly. Okay. Which all are the unisexual plants examples? Papaya and watermelon, bisexual, hibiscus and mustard. Study this properly. This is important. Okay. Study this properly. And then, okay. So about the female reproductive part, which all are the parts of the female reproductive part of the ovary, stigma, style, and ovary. Right, stigma is a landing platform for the pollen grain. Style is the neck-like portion through which the pollen tube is growing down, and the ovary is the part that contains ovule, inside which there is a female germ cell. Right? Yes. And then about the, what is the other thing? Yes. If the pollen grain is of the same species of the plant, it becomes receptive, right? And the pollen tube grows down. And through the pollen tube, the male germ cell will be moving downward and it reaches the ovary and then it fuses with the female germ cell, that is with the egg. And that results in the formation of, it results in fertilization, which results in the formation of zygote, right? Now, after fertilization, what are the fate of various parts of the flower? Who can say that? Ovary becomes the fruit. Ovule becomes the seed. Yes. And what about the zygote? Zygote divides to form embryo. Embryo will germinate to give rise to the future plant, right? Yes, that's a fate. Remaining parts of the flower will shrivel and fall off. Okay, remember that. In appropriate condition, germination results. Now, if this image is important, okay, the cut open seed. Inside the cut open seed, there is a food store that is called the cotyledon, and then there is this embryonal axis. This is the embryonal axis, and it has got the upper part, which is a plumule, and lower part is called the radicle. Plumule is going to develop into the future shoot of the plant, and radicle is going to develop into the future root of the plant. Okay, is this clear, guys? Is this part clear? Everything is clear? Online students,
Yes,
everyone,
ma'am.
please respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, all right. Now about the reproduction in the human beings. Reproduction in human beings, you have to write about the hormonal aspects and all. What all are the changes happening? What is puberty? Puberty is the stage during which the reproductive organs becomes mature and they'll begin to produce the germ cells. Okay, and also the hormones are released. Okay, and then about the transfer of the germ cells between okay, fertilization of the germ cells, all of those kind of things. You need to know about the structure of the male and female reproductive system. The testes is the male reproductive part, right, from which the sperms are produced, and it's placed in a sac called the scrotum. Why is it placed in the scrotal sac, guys?
For the body, the temperature.
Oh,
Because
yes,
It requires a temperature lower than the body temperature.
exactly, to keep the temperatures lower than the core body temperatures. If the temperatures are higher, it's going to interfere with the sperm production, right? Higher temperatures will prevent the sperm production from happening. And then the tube through which the sperms are transmitted from the testes to the urethra, what is it called? Vas deferens. Vas deferens is a tube through which it is transported, and also the testis has got the function of what do you say, the testosterone production. Now, as the sperms are delivered into the urinary bladder, some other secretions are also released, right? Which all are the glands secreting such those secretions? Seminal vesicles and prostate glands. Remember, okay? And what do they secrete? They secrete a specialized fluid in which the sperm can be transported easily, and also the fluid is going to provide nutrition to the sperms, and that is called the semen. Okay, yes, the prostate glands and the seminal vesicles are responsible for the release of this fluid. Okay, remember that. And then about the female reproductive system, this diagram is really important. Study this properly. Okay. So the ovary, it is going to release the eggs, and also it is going to release two major hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Once the egg is released, it's going to move into the oviduct or the fallopian tube. And where is the fertilization going to happen, guys? If the sperm enters? Yes, it happens in the fallopian tube or in the oviduct. Fertilization happens. If the fertilization happens, the embryo will turn, it will become zygote, and zygote will develop into embryo, and it will get implanted in the wall of the uterus. Okay, and after implantation, placenta develops, and there's a gestation period of 9 months, after which the baby is delivered. Okay, now suppose fertilization did not happen. There was no fertilization. What will happen? Yeah, the lining of the uterus will fall off, will break down, and it will fall off. And it was a cushiony layer which is filled with lots of mucus and blood capillaries so as to nourish the developing embryo. But since there is no fertilization, it's going to break and fall off by the process of menstruation. Even the egg which lived over here in the female reproductive system for 1 day is also going to come out with the menstrual flow. Okay, and it's going to last for about 2 to 8 days, right? That's about the things that are said over here. Now about the placenta. What is the significance of placenta? Really important. What is placenta? It's a specialized tissue which is formed by the maternal and the fetal components, right? It's a firm connection between the baby and the mother, okay? And then it is a disc which is embedded in the uterine wall. It contains villi on the embryo side. Villi are finger-like projections which are being given by the embryo. And then there is the blood tissues or the blood capillaries which is surrounding the villi. That is the maternal component, okay? Now, which all are the substances transported through it? Say quickly. Substances transported through the placenta. Oxygen, waste material, yes, nutrients, water, all of these are the substances transported. Oxygen, nutrients, and water, all of these things will be transported into the baby, and from the baby, carbon dioxide and waste materials will be thrown out through the placenta into the mother's bloodstream, and the mother will be eliminating it. Okay, and after 9 months, there is the contraction, rhythmic contraction of the muscles in the uterus, and that's how the baby is delivered out. Now, when the egg is not fertilized, we already said about it, about the menstrual flow that is going to happen. Now, about the reproductive health, the population is increasing, so we have to control the population, for which various contraceptive methods can be used. And also, usage of contraceptive methods is helpful in preventing sexually transmitted diseases. Now, another important question, bacterial infections example, viral infections example. Which all are the examples for bacterial infections? Gonorrhea and syphilis. Viral infection example, AIDS and warts. Okay, very much important. Study this properly. You're going to get questioned based on this. Okay, yes. Now the transmission of such kind of diseases can be prevented by using condoms. Okay, then in order to control the population, all these kind of contraceptive methods can be used. There are certain devices that can be placed inside the uterus, like the copper T, in order to prevent the pregnancy from happening. Also, pills can be consumed in order to change the hormonal balance, so that the a release of the egg is not happening in case of females. Okay, there are surgical methods also. Which all are the surgical methods? There is vasectomy and tubectomy, right? What is done in vasectomy? Vas deferens is cut and tied, and that's done in the males. And in tubectomy, fallopian tube is cut and tied, so that the egg is not fertilizing with the sperm. Okay, vasectomy is happening in males and tubectomy is happening in females. Those are the surgical procedures. Surgical procedures do not mostly have any kind of disadvantages, whereas the other ones, all these devices, usage of devices, consumption of pills, they have got some disadvantages or side effects. Okay, yes, all right. Then about the human population, that's it. Okay, guys, clear? Clear with the chapter? We are done with the chapter.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, moving on to the questions. Yes, quickly. Name and explain two modes of asexual reproduction observed in Hydra.
Budding and
Budding and
not regeneration. Yeah.
budding and regeneration. What is vegetative propagation? List two advantages of using this technique.
First, regeneration is.
You know what vegetative propagation is? Asexual reproduction in which different plant parts are used as propagules in order to raise a new plant. Advantages, seedless progenies can be created, and also in order to get the same characteristic as that of the parent plant. Now, what happens when the leaves of bryophyllum fall in the soil? You know it. Planaria cut into many pieces, fragmentation happens. Sporangia of the rhizobus on maturation liberates spores that causes the germination. Okay, what all are the modes of reproduction? This is spore formation, this is regeneration, this is vegetative propagation. Write the changes that occur in the flower once fertilization has taken place. Ovary turns into fruit, ovule into seed, or the egg into embryo, zygote into embryo, and rest of the parts of the plant falls off. Now, where are the testes located in the human males and why? It's in the scrotal sac in order to reduce the temperatures, so the sperm production can happen. Say two functions of the testes: it releases testosterone, it also produces sperm cells. In human females, one of the ovaries releases an egg every month. Say the changes that take place if the egg is fertilized. The egg is fertilized, it gets implanted, placenta formation happens, and then rest of the things. Baby will grow for the 9 months, and then the rhythmic contraction of the uterine walls. The egg is not fertilized, menstruation occurs. Explain the process. Okay. Yes. Now, what is done during surgical methods in males and females to prevent pregnancy? Vas deferens is cut and tied in males, and tubectomy, fallopian tube is cut and tied. That's in females. Now, why is it not possible to reconstruct the whole organism from a fragment into complex multicellular organisms? The part should contain the responsible cells from each of the organs of that particular organism, so that the entire lost part can be regenerated. And since multicellular organisms are complex organisms, not all part of the body contain all the representative cells of the body, because of which it cannot happen. Explain it. Okay. Now, the sexual maturation of reproductive tissues and organs are necessary links of reproduction. Elucidate. Yes. The reproductive tissues will have to be matured first of all, right? Then only you will be able to produce the the sperm and the egg. And also in case of females, the uterus have to be developed properly so that they can carry the baby and deliver the baby. Okay, so the hormones have to be released in proper amounts in this puberty stage itself, and then it progresses until you reach the reproductive age. Okay, now mention the changes that occur in the following after fertilization. Petals fall off, zygote turns into embryo, ovary develops into fruit, ovule develops into seed. Now, name the reproductive part of an angiosperm. What is an angiosperm?
Flowering plant.
Flowering plant, very good. Flowering plants are called the angiosperms. And the reproductive part of an angiosperm is flower, right? Yes, flower is the reproductive part. Where are these parts located on the plant? Now explain the structure of the female reproductive part. Reproductive parts are the pistil and the stamen. Okay. Now it's located on the flower, and explain the structure of female reproductive part. Pistil has got stigma, stamen, sigma style, and ovary. Explain it. Okay. Now give reason. Placenta is extremely essential because it helps in exchange of various materials, nutrients, waste, everything. Uterine lining becomes thick and spongy after fertilization, so as to implant the embryo and nourish the embryo so that it can develop properly. Okay, that's the significance. Explain them. Okay. Now, what is vegetative propagation? List with a brief explanation 3 advantages of practicing this process for growing some type of plants. Select 2 plants from the following which are grown. You know the first 2 parts. Just do the third part. Select 2 plants from the following that are propagated. Banana, mustard.
Jasmine.
Mustard.
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Yeah.
Yes, mustard is not there. Mustard is bisexual. Okay. Now, name 2 infections that can be actually transmitted in human beings. Any 2 infections. Okay, HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, anything you can write. List 2 examples of the diseases caused due to. Okay, separate questions there. Bacterial infection, gonorrhea and syphilis. Bacterial. Viral infection, warts and HIV. Study them properly. Study the examples properly. How can they be prevented? Okay, write all those things. Now draw the neat label diagram showing the fertilization in a flower and label the pollen tube, male germ cell and female germ cell on it. Okay, where do you know how to draw the pollen tube? Where will you draw the male germ cell? Inside the pollen tube. Okay, inside the pollen tube. And the female germ cell is inside the ovary, in the ovule. Inside it, there you can draw the female germ cell or the egg. Okay, explain the process of fertilization in flower. What happens to the ovary and ovule? This is important. Okay, this has been repeated many times. Study this properly. What happens after fertilization? That process is important. Now, what is puberty? We said period during which your body becomes reproductively matured. Reproductive organs gets matured. They'll begin to produce the what do you say? The sexual hormones. Okay, and also the development of the body happens, the reproductive organs happen. Describe in brief the function of following parts of the human male reproductive system. Testes function has been discussed. What about the seminal vesicles, guys? Anybody? About the seminal vesicles? Seminal vesicles.
It provides nutrition as well as helps
correct,
in the
correct.
transportation
It secretes the
of the
fluid
sperm.
yes, it secretes a fluid which helps in providing nourishment to the sperms and also help in transportation of the sperms. Vas deferens. Yeah, it helps in transporting the sperms which are formed in the testes into the urethra. Then urethra, the structure through which the sperm and also the urine can be transported. Okay. Now, why are testes located outside the abdominal cavity in the scrotal sac? About the temperature, you have to write. State how the sperms move towards the female germ cell. It has got tail. It has got mitochondria. Mitochondria provides energy, because of which the tail will be moving. That helps in propelling the sperm forward. Okay, write about it. Then explain multiple fission, give examples. Single parent give rise to more than 2 number of daughter cells, right? Yes. And then example is plasmodium. You can give the example for plasmodium. It's a 2-mark question. Now define pollination. Explain the different types of pollination. List 2 agents of pollination. Suitable pollination. How does suitable pollination lead to fertilization? Okay. Are any of the questions confusing? No. Everything is clear, right? Any 2 agents of pollination you can write, and then suitable pollination. How does it lead to fertilization? If it's a suitable pollination, pollen tube begins to grow and it reaches into the ovary, transporting the male gamete into it, and that results in fertilization. Okay. Now 15th question. Draw a diagram of the human female reproductive system and label the parts which produce the egg. Which is the part that produces egg, guys? Say quickly.
Ovary.
Ovary. Very good. Where is the fertilization taking place, guys?
Fallopian.
Fallopian tube. Yes. List 2 bacterial diseases which are transmitted sexually.
Gonorrhea and
Gonorrhea, syphilis. What are contraceptive devices? Give 2 reasons for adopting contraceptive devices in humans.
Property and
Yeah, copper T is a device. Then some other contraceptive devices or surgical methods. Everything you can write about the condoms and everything. Okay, there are 2 reasons for adopting: in order to prevent sexually transmitted diseases and also in order to regulate the population growth. Okay. Yes. Then how does Plasmodium reproduce? Is a method of sexual asexual. Asexual method is a process of multiple fission. Say the basic requirement for sexual reproduction. Two individuals belonging to the same species but of two different gender, right? So that they can contribute to different germ cells, okay, opposite germ cells, right? The importance of such reproduction in nature, it imparts variation which helps in evolution and in selecting fit individuals so as to survive better. Now list 3 techniques that have been developed to prevent pregnancy. Any 3 techniques you can write. Which of the following techniques is not meant for males? Usage of pills is not meant for males. It's for the females in order to maintain the hormonal balance. How do the use of these techniques have direct impact on the health and prosperity of a family? It reduces the population, and because of that reason, they'll be more economically stable. They can have a better life. Okay. Then describe reproduction by spores and rhizopus. Yes, you can write about the spore formation. The entire thing you can describe. The difference between asexual and sexual mode of reproduction, also give examples for each. Very easy, you can do it. Right? Moving on to the next chapter. Shall I move on to the next chapter, guys? Quickly. Heredity. What to say about heredity? Accumulation of variations during reproduction. Yes, variations keeps on getting accumulated, and that's what is leading to evolution. Right? Yes. So it's of great importance. And then heredity, about the inherited traits and acquired traits. What is the difference between inherited and acquired traits, guys?
From the parents.
Yeah, from the parents, you are getting lots of genes and traits, and it's passed on from one generation to other because it's associated with your genome. It's there in your DNA, so it's transferred from one generation to other. Right? That's the inherited trait. And examples you can write: free earlobe, attached earlobe, texture of your hair, the color of your skin, your blood group. All of these are inherited. Okay. Now, what about the acquired traits, guys? Yeah,
Yes, they are acquired in the lifetime of a human being.
yeah, it's acquired during the lifetime of a human being. And can those characteristics be transferred to the next generation? No, it cannot be transferred to the next generation because those changes are happening to your non-reproductive cells. It's not happening to your reproductive cells. Okay. For example, you are going to a gym, you're gaining muscle mass. Can it be transferred to your next generation? No, because it's the muscle cells that have changed, not the reproductive cells. Okay. That's the example. Now, about Mendel. What is the contribution of Gregor Mendel? He's known as the father of genetics. He gave us the laws of genetics, right? Yes. Which are the laws? Law of dominance, law of independent assortment. Those are the 2 major laws you need to focus on. Okay. In the F1 generation, the dominant characteristics are expressed. That's what is given in the law of dominance. So, there are 2 alleles. There is a dominant allele. There's a recessive allele. It's the dominant allele which is able to express itself even in the presence of a recessive allele. And that kind of a characteristic is the dominant characteristic. Okay. Recessive allele will be able to express itself only in the presence of another recessive allele. Right? Yes. And the F1 individuals are otherwise called hybrids, remember. Okay. Capital T, small t individuals. From the purebred plants, you get hybrid individuals. Okay. And then about the monohybrid cross. What do you mean by monohybrid cross, guys? Only a single characteristic is taken into consideration while you do the experiment. That is a monohybrid. Mono means one. Okay, only a single characteristic is taken into consideration. Suppose you are only taking height of the plant into consideration. Okay. And what is the phenotypic ratio in the F2 generation of a monohybrid cross? In the F2 generation, what is the phenotypic ratio? Phenotypic ratio. 3:1. 3:1. If you're taking the tallness and dwarfness, 3 will be tall and 1 will be dwarf. What about the genotypic ratio, guys? 1:2:1, right? One of them is going to be homozygous. See, one of them is going to be homozygous dominant. The rest of the 2 are heterozygous dominant, and 1 is homozygous recessive. The genetic constitution of an organism is called the genotype. Okay, so the genotypic constitution is going to be 1:2:1. Okay, now about the dihybrid cross. What is dihybrid cross, guys? You're taking 2. Yes, 2 characteristics are taken into consideration, and then you are seeing the inheritance pattern of these traits, how they are expressed. And after doing the dihybrid cross, he could give another law. Mendel could give another law, that is the law of independent assortment. That means 2 characteristics, when you're taking them together, they get assorted, they get separated independent of each other during gamete formation. That was what he was saying in the law of independent assortment. And because of that reason, in the F2 generation, you will get new combinations of characteristics also, which are not seen in the parental generation. right? So over here, you're taking round green and wrinkled yellow parent plants, but in the F2 generation, you're also going to get wrinkled yellow and round yellow plants, right? So those are new combinations of characteristics that, I mean, round green and wrinkled yellow plants are obtained. New combinations of characters are obtained, right? So that is actually showing the law of independent assortment. Now give me the phenotypic ratio for the law of independent assortment. I mean, dihybrid cross. 9 is to
9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1.
3 is to 1. Then, if they are asking you to use a genetic diagram to explain the cross, you have to use the Punnett square. Okay, use the Punnett square, and then that's the genetic diagram. Okay, and also this entire thing has to be written: the genotype of the parent, the gametes, then the F1 generation, the genotype of both the F1 generation individuals, and then the gametes. Everything has to be written, and then you should draw the Punnett square and explain. Okay, that's what you are supposed to do. See if they're asking for the genetic diagram. See the question properly, read the question properly, and see if they're asking for the genetic diagram. Okay, so that's the independent assortment of two separate traits that has happened over here. Now, but the sex determination, very simple topic. How many pairs of chromosomes do we have? We have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Of the 23 pairs of chromosomes, one pair are sex chromosomes, right? The sex chromosomes in males is X and Y, and in females is X and X. Okay, so in males, there is a mismatched pairs of sex chromosomes. Okay, and this X and Y are called the mismatched pairs. Why is it so? X is different in structure. X is larger, X has got more number of genes, whereas Y is smaller and it has only got less number of genes in it. That's the reason that you're supposed to write if they're asking you why are they called mismatched pairs. Okay, write that reason. Okay, now the gametes. In case of sperms, suppose 1 million sperms are produced. Half of them will contain X chromosomes in them. Half of them will contain Y chromosomes in them. What about the females? Female can only produce egg containing X chromosome. They only have X chromosomes. Okay, so all the eggs are going to contain X chromosome. Now it's the sperm that fertilize the egg that's going to determine the gender of the baby, right? Yes. So if the X chromosome is going to bind with egg, it's going to give rise to a female, and if the Y chromosome containing sperm is going to fertilize the egg, it's going to be a male, right? Simple thing. It's clear, right? We are done with the chapter, and I need to move on to the questions. Shall I move on to the questions, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yes. Okay. Moving on. We have 22 minutes, right? We took 22 minutes for this chapter. All right. Yes. Abdan is there to take care of the timing. Okay. Thank you, Abdan. Okay. Where are the questions? Heredity. Okay. When F1 plants were cross-pollinated with the plants having small t genes, a total of 800 plants were produced. How many of these would be tall, medium-heighted, or short plants? Will there be any medium-heighted plants, guys? No, this is
No.
wrong. You can eliminate this. There will only be tall and short plants. They have just given this to confuse you. There are no medium-heighted. Law of dominance, remember that. Okay? Yes. Now give the genotype of the F2 generation and also speak about the number of individuals that will be tall and short. Yeah. So what are they saying over here? F1 individuals. So what's the genotype of F1 individuals? You know that they are hybrid. It is capital T small t. And then there is another parent plant that is small t, right? Now the gametes produced in each of the cases will be capital T, small t, and then small t, small t. Use a genetic diagram. You can prepare a Punnett square. Okay, if you're preparing a Punnett square, you have to write the gametes horizontally and vertically. Capital T, small t, small t, small t, and you are simply combining them together. Capital T, small t, small t, small t, capital T, small t, small t, small t. 50-50, right? 2 is to 2. That means 1 is to 1. 1 is to 1 combination is going to be obtained. That means out of 800 plants, how many will be tall? 400 are going to be tall and 400 are going to be dwarf, right? Dwarfs. And what is the genotype? They are asking you for the genotype also. What's the genotype of tall individuals? Capital T, small t, right? And then for dwarfs, it is small t, small t. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. The number, they're asking you like how many of these will be tall. That is 400. Genotype is capital T, small t, small t, small t. They're not asking for genotypic ratio. No, you don't need to write the ratio over here. Genotype has to be written. Okay. Now the second question. How does Mendel experiment shows that traits are inherited independently? Yeah,
By dihybrid cross.
dihybrid cross. Explain what dihybrid cross is. Give one example also. According to the mark, you can modify your answer. Okay. Now the third question. A Mendelian experiment consisted of breeding plants with violet flowers with pea plant with white flower. What will be the result in the F1 generation? No, monohybrid cross. No, color of the flower is taken. Violet and white. Yeah. Tell me, what will be the color of progeny in the F1 generation? Say quickly. What will be the color in the F1 generation? Which of these is dominant? Is violet dominant or white dominant? Violet is dominant. So F1 progeny are going to be violet in color. Yes, yes, violet in color. Okay. Now there were 7 contrasting characters that were taken into consideration by Mendel. I hope you people remember which those 7 characteristics were. And all the contrasting traits also you have to study, because they are not going to mention like which one is dominant and which one is recessive. You are supposed to study it and learn it and attempt the exam. Okay. They are not going to tell you. Okay. Now the fourth question. How many pairs of chromosomes are present in the human beings? 23 pairs of chromosomes. Yes. Yes. Now fifth question. Why did Mendel carry out an experiment to study inheritance of 2 traits in garden pea? Because he wanted to see like how the characteristics are transferred and expressed if he considers 2 traits together. Okay. And then dihybrid. Yeah, to derive the dihybrid inheritance pattern. And also he derived the law of independent assortment. Yes, you can write it. Now B. What are his findings with respect to the inheritance of traits in F1 and F2 generation? In F1 generation, dominant traits are getting expressed, right? Only the dominant traits are expressed, but in F2 generation, 2 new combinations of characters are also obtained in the dihybrid ratio. Okay, you can use an example to just it just convey the things. Okay. Now, say the ratio obtained in the F2 generation in the above mentioned experiment. What's the ratio in the dihybrid cross? 9:2, 3:2, 3:1.
3:1.
Yes. Now the 6th question. Name 2 types of gametes produced by men. X and Y. Why is there a silence? Why don't you say this? Don't you expect such kind of simple questions? There will be simple questions also. Okay, not all the questions are going to be confusing. Some of them are going to be straightforward questions only. Don't overthink and make it wrong. Okay. Now, does a male child inherit X chromosome from his father? Justify. No, a male child can never inherit X chromosome from the father, right? The male child will only be having a single X chromosome, and that's from the mother. The male child will only be contributed a Y chromosome from the father. That's why the child is male, right? Yes. Okay. Now, how many types of gametes are produced by the human female? Only a single type that contains X chromosome in it, right? Yes. Now, what is DNA?
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. It is such kind of a polymer in which the genetic information has been stored and it is contained in the nucleus of a cell. Okay. What is chromosome? Chromosome is
Fairy-like structure.
they are rod-like structures that are the units of, yeah, they carry the hereditary information from one generation to the next. Okay. Yes. And they contain DNA and proteins in them. All right. Yes. Okay. Now explain how in sexually reproducing organisms the number of chromosomes in the progeny is maintained. In sexually reproducing organisms, how is the number of chromosomes maintained? So there in the mock exam also, no? Yeah.
Meiosis.
Meiosis process, right? Meiosis process happens. There's a reduction division, and that's how the gametes are haploid in nature. There is a diploid parent cell from which haploid gametes are produced, and one more process happens to restore this. To restore this haploidy, there is fertilization happening. And when fertilization happens, the normal chromosomal number gets restored. Both those events you have to write. Meiosis and fertilization. Both these things have to be written. Okay. Reduction division. 23 pairs of chromosomes becomes 23 in number in the gametes, right? That's the meiosis. This was diploid. There were 2 sets of chromosomes in the parent cell and it becomes haploid. Half the number of cells will be there in the sperm and in the egg. And when they fuse together, it becomes 23 pair again, 46. Okay. Now, the sex of a newborn child is a matter of chance and none of the parents may be considered to be responsible for it. Justify the statement. It's a matter of chance, right? You can't say that.
Father is responsible, right?
No. You can't say that father is responsible. Father is not intentionally causing the egg cell to be fused with the sperm containing X chromosome or sperm containing Y chromosome in it. Okay, 50% of the sperms are going to contain X chromosomes and 50% of them are going to be containing Y chromosomes. Okay, it's a matter of chance only. Okay, suppose in a family there were like four boy childs. Is there any surety that the fifth child is going to be a female? No, it's a chance event. It is a 50-50 chance. Okay, it can either be a male or it can be a female. Okay, it's not dependent on a single individual. It is a chance event. Okay, right, like that. Understood. Now, but if they ask a question like, can females be blamed for it? No, females cannot be blamed because females only produce a single type of the gamete that contains only X chromosome in it. It's a sperm that is going to fertilize, that is going to determine the sex of the child. Okay. Yes. Now, how do Mendel's experiments show that the traits may be dominant or recessive? Traits are inherited independently. Both this experiment you have to write over here. First case, monohybrid, and second case, dihybrid. It was a 5-mark question. Okay, explain both the things with suitable examples. Now, in a pea plant, the trait of flower being purple is dominant over the color white color. Explain the inheritance pattern of F1 and F2 generation with the help of cross following the rules of inheritance of traits. State the visible characteristics of F1 and F2 progenies. Yeah, tell me, in the F1 generation, all of them are going to be
Purple in color.
yes, purple in color. All of them are going to be purple in color. In F2 generation, what will you get? In F2 generation, you are going to get purple as well as white colored individuals, right? Visible characteristics. We are asking for phenotype, not about the genotype, and you have to show the inheritance using the cross and all. Now, 11. Gene for red hair is recessive or gene for black hair. What will be the hair color of a child if he inherits a gene for red color from his mother and a gene for black color from the father?
Yeah.
Yes.
Black hair.
Yes, the child is going to exhibit black color because black is dominant. He has got the allele for black color. Okay, and with the help of a flow chart, you can explain it. Okay, like the formation flow chart, not the genetic diagram. You can use a flow chart. Like, suppose the father over here, they are saying that the father is having black color hair, right? So he can be either capital B, capital B, or he can be capital B, small b. Any one condition you can take. And the mother is red colored hair. Okay, small b. And then about the formation of gametes, small b gamete and small b gamete, capital B, and then they are combining over here. This is a flow chart. You don't need to use a Punnett square over here. Okay, and this is how the individual is obtained. Okay. Now 12th question. In a cross between pea plants having round green seeds and wrinkled yellow seeds, what's the progeny expected in the F1? Very, very easy. You can do all these things. No, round green seeds and wrinkled yellow seeds. They are, which is a dominant characteristic, round or wrinkled. Round is dominant. Green or yellow, which is dominant? Yellow is dominant. So in the F1 generation, all the plants are going to be round and yellow. In the F2 generation, you are going to get round green plants, wrinkled yellow plants, round yellow plants, wrinkled green plants. Okay, all the 4 combinations are possible. Now, what would be the impact of the ratio of F2 generation if the F1 progeny plants inherited a single whole set of genes from each parents? That leads to polyploidy, and the ratio is not going to remain as 9:3:3:1. Okay, they are going to inherit the entire set of chromosomes from each parent. Okay, and since it's the entire set of chromosomes that is donated, the ratio will deviate from 9:3:3:1. That's what you are supposed to write over here. Now, 13th question. Mustard was growing in 2 fields, A and B. While field A produced brown-colored seeds, field B produced yellow-colored seeds. It was observed that in the field A, offspring showed only parental traits for consecutive generations, whereas in the field B, majority of the offspring showed variation in the progeny. What's the probable reason for it? Yes, in the field A, it was only asexual reproduction happening, or it was only the self-pollination that was happening. Okay, any of these cases can happen. But why are there variations in the B field? Because there was cross-pollination happening. Okay, that was the reason why there were probable variations in the B field. Now 14. In an asexually reproducing species, the trait X exists in 5% of a population. It's asexually reproducing, okay? And the trait Y exists in 70% of the same population. Which of the 2 traits is likely to have arisen earlier? Give reason. Online students? Which one would have arisen earlier? Is it 70% trait or 55% trait? Of course, the 70% trait, because it's seen in about 70% of the population. So it was the one which has formed earlier, and it is an asexual type of reproducing species, right? So they are going to transfer the same genes all over again to the next generation. But why is this 5% change? It might be because of chance events like mutation. Mutation might have caused the slight variations. Okay? Yes. 15. Two pea plants, one with round yellow and the other with wrinkled green seeds, produce F1 generation having round and yellow seeds. When the F1 plants are self-pollinated, new combination of characters are expressed. How many seeds with these new combination of characters will be produced when a total of 160 seeds are produced in the F2 generation? You know the ratio. 9:3:3:1, which is a total of 16, right? 16 multiplied with 10, it becomes 160, right? So 90 with round yellow, right? 30 with new combination, another 30 with new combination, and then recessive ones are going to be 10, right? Becomes 160. So how many of them are going to have these new combination of characters? 60 individuals are going to have new combination of characters. And if you're asked to explain with reason, you can write this. The ratio multiplied with 10, 30 individuals are going to be round green and 30 individuals are going to be wrinkled yellow. Okay, right, like that. Okay, now Sahil performed an experiment to study the inheritance pattern of genes. He crossed the tall plants with the short plants and obtained all tall plants in the F1 generation. What will be the set of genes present in the F1 generation? What is it? Capital T, small t. Give reason why only tall plants are observed in the F1 generation. Capital T is dominant over the small t. Law of dominance has to be explained over here. Now, list the difference between dominant trait and recessive trait. You know it. What percentage of plants in F2 generation are round? If Mendel's hybrid cross between round and wrinkled and yellow seeded plants. Yeah. F2 generation, what percentage of plants will be round? Yeah.
So
Round and wrinkled green plants. Round yellow, wrinkled green plants are there. How many of them? What percentage of plants in F2 generation will be round?
Is it 75%?
Yes, 75% is the answer. Why is it so? There will be round yellow individuals and also they are going to be round green individuals, and that becomes a major portion. It becomes 75. Rest of them is only 25. Okay? Yes. Now, a trait may be inherited but not expressed. Justify the statement with the help of suitable example. F1 generation, only dominant trait is expressed, but the recessive trait is also inherited and it's expressed only in the F2 generation, right? That's why when two F1 generation plants are crossed, if you're asked to justify this, when two F1 generation plants are crossed, you get tall plants as well as you're going to get the dwarf plants, right? You're going to get tall, you're going to get dwarf plants as well. That's shown, that's saying like, though the trait is not expressed, it's transferred, it's inherited. Now, understanding Cheyenne? Yes. Now, a pea plant with blue colored flower denoted by capital B crossbred with a pea plant with white flower denoted by WW. What is expected with the color of flower in the F1 progeny? Yes, blue colored is dominant. So that will be there. What will be the percentage of plants bearing white flowers in the F2 generation? 25%. When the flowers of F1 plants are self-pollinated, say the expected ratio of genotype of capital B and and capital B small w in the F2 progeny. 1:2, right? 1:2 is going to be the progeny, right? Genotypic ratio is considered to be 1:2:1, of which one is capital B, two of them are going to be capital B, small w, and one is going to be small w, right? Yes. Now 20, mention any 2 points of difference between acquired and inherited traits. We already discussed it. Inherited and acquired traits, how they are different. One is getting transferred to next generation, other is not getting transferred. One is happening, one is associated with the changes in the reproductive cells, and the other one is associated with changes in non-reproductive cells in your body. If the tail of a mouse is cut into 21 generations, will the tail occur in the 22nd generation of the mouse? Give reason to support the answer.
Yes,
Tail
it will occur.
is cut. Yeah, Diba, tell me. Oh, no, Jahanara, yes. Tell me.
It will come. The tail will be present in the 22nd generation also.
Tail will be present in the 22nd generation also, because tail is not associated with the reproductive organ, right? Tail is a non-reproductive part of the organism's body. So it will grow. Yes, there are genes responsible for the production of the tail, even if the tail is simply cut off. Okay, so the tail will be formed in the 22nd generation also. Okay, yes. Suppose you have a fractured bone in your body. Will it be passed to the next generation? No. Okay, that's what is said over here. Now, the last topic that we need to go through our environment, a simple chapter. What about the ecosystem? What is ecosystem?
It's when abiotic and biotic
The functional unit of the environment in which the biotic and abiotic components interact with each other. Biotic components interact with each other, and also they can interact with the abiotic components. You know what biotic and abiotic components are. Biotic are the living components, abiotic components are the non-living components like temperature, rainfall, wind, soil, etc. And then there are artificial and natural ecosystems. Natural ecosystems examples, forest, rivers, oceans, all of them. Artificial ecosystem, crop field, aquarium, all of them are examples for garden. All of them are examples for, yeah, artificial ecosystems. Then, yeah, so because of that reason, artificial ecosystem has to be cleaned regularly because there is no any decomposers present to remove the toxins out of it. Now, what are food chain? What is food chain, guys? Say quickly.
Food chain is the steps of trophic levels.
Yeah, steps of trophic levels through which the transportation of energy is happening in an ecosystem. Okay, the levels through which transportation of energy happens, and it begins with the producer and ends in a tertiary or secondary consumer. Okay, yes, and then about the food web. What is food web?
It's a mixture of
It is a network of food chains.
Yes, network of food
Which
chains or
become
interlinked food chains forms a food web. Okay, a single individual can be a part of multiple food chains, and that leads to the formation of a food web. Okay, and now what about the transfer of energy, guys? Will the entire energy be transferred to the next trophic level? No, only 10%.
No.
Only 10% gets
Only
transferred.
10% of energy gets transferred to the next trophic level. 90% of it is lost into the environment in the form of heat, and it's released as waste materials. Yes, by various metabolic processes, right? And then how much amount of energy is captured by the sun by the plant from the sun? 1% of
1%.
yes, 1%. It will be very useful while you solve the questions. Okay. Yes, 1% of energy is transferred from the sun. Okay. Now, just go through this. What is this? These are trophic levels. Yes, and then there is a pyramid, right? There's a pyramid in which the trophic levels are represented separately. There's a producer at the bottom, then the second trophic level contain primary consumers, then the secondary consumer, and the tertiary consumer. They can't be more than 4 trophic levels in a food chain. Why is it so? Again, 10% law of energy transfer, because when it reaches the top consumers, there won't be any more energy left in order to satisfy the nutrient requirement of the body of that top predator. That's why it's always remaining like there are only 4 levels in a trophic chain. I mean, food chain.
Mom, will they ask about the aquatic pyramid, the inverted one?
Yes, if it's a pyramid of biomass, in case of the pyramid of biomass in the aquatic ecosystem, it's going to be inverted, right? Because in the aquatic ecosystem, the biomass of the planktons, it's so less, right? The biomass of planktons is really less. Planktons are consumed by small fishes, their biomass is even more larger. And then comes the larger fishes, which will have even more biomass. Okay, and then what about the human beings? We have most biomass. Okay, so it's going to be an inverted pyramid of biomass. Okay, inverted pyramid of biomass. Will a pyramid of energy be inverted? No, it will never be inverted. It will always be upright. Okay, pyramid of energy will always be upright because energy is not going to retrace its path. It's going to flow from the producer level to the consumer level only. Okay, and as the energy is transferred, the amount of energy transferred is going to become lesser, 10% low. Okay, yes, all right. And then about the biological magnification, really important. You will see many questions in the previous year question papers also. What is biological magnification, guys? Some non-degradable toxic materials keeps on getting accumulated from one trophic level to another as the organism consume various food materials, right? And it's going to turn toxic, and the most effect of this is produced in the higher trophic levels. Yeah, the tertiary consumers or the quaternary consumers are the ones who are going to be most affected because of it. That phenomenon is called the biological magnification. Maximum concentration of the chemicals get accumulated or magnified in the human body. Okay, this is the reason why the food grains such as wheat, rice, vegetable, fruits, and even meat contain very large amount of pesticide residues, and you cannot always remove them by washing or other means. They're going to enter into your body anyway, and they'll get accumulated over there, causing organ failure and other kind of things. Now, ozone layer, very important. Ozone is O3. Where is it found? It's found in the stratosphere. If it's present in the lower layers, it's going to be a deadly poison and it's going to affect the health of the people. But since it's present in the stratosphere, it's going to protect our earth from the harmful UV radiations, which if enter into the earth's surface can cause the skin cancer, then cataract, problem with immunity, all of those kind of things. These equations are really important. How ozone is produced. Oxygen in the presence of UV radiations is split into oxygen atoms. Oxygen atom combined with oxygen molecule in the breath to form ozone. Okay, this is the equation. It is really important. Study it properly. Now, why are we concerned too much about CFCs? CFCs are chlorofluorocarbons. They are used. They are synthetic chemicals. It can reach the stratosphere and cause the splitting of ozone and causes ozone holes, right? Yes, and that causes ozone depletion, and because of that reason, UV rays can enter into the surface of the earth. Yes, okay. And about the all those kind of things. United Nations Environmental Program. What was the agreement to freeze the CFC production in the 1986 levels? Okay, so it's released from the aerosol sprays, from the refrigerants. All of these are the ones that release the CFCs. Now there are alternatives to be used. Now, maintaining the garbage that we produce. Yes. The human-made materials like plastic, they cannot be broken down because the bacteria and other saprophytes do not have enzymes that can be used up to break it down. And also there are lots of chemicals being used, because of which it's going to persist for a long period of time in the environment. Okay, they are non-biodegradable and they are inert substances. They simply persist in the environment for a long period of time and various members of the ecosystem. Okay. And you know what biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste materials are, how they are separated, segregated, all of those kind of things. And about the coolhuts. Coolhuts. Why are we not using coolhuts nowadays? Because in order to make coolhuts, we are removing the topsoil, right? Topsoil is the most fertile part of the soil. And if we are removing the topsoil, it's going to make your soil barren, your field barren. Okay, so in order to avoid that, now coolhuts are replaced by disposable paper cups. Okay, yes, that's about the coolhuts. Is it clear, guys? Yes. All right. Now, shall we do the questions? Online students, shall we move ahead with the questions?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Yes, the first question. Use of several pesticides which results in excessive accumulation of pesticides in the rivers, ponds, and is a matter of deep concern. Justify the statement.
As
it would lead to biological magnification and lives of the entire individuals in the entire food chain. Okay, and say like what its effect is in the human beings. It will be more concentrated in the human body. About the biomagnification, you have to explain properly. Now, the second question: what are human-made ecosystems? Give an example. Aquarium or a crop field. Can a human-made ecosystem become self-sustaining ecosystem? No, it can't, because there will not be any natural detoxifiers. For example, in an aquarium, there are no decomposers. Okay, so the toxins are going to get accumulated over there, and if we're not cleaning it and in a regular basis, it can lead to the death of all the individuals, all the fishes in the aquarium. Okay, and then third, why are crop fields considered to be artificial ecosystems?
Because it's man-made.
Yes, it is man-made. In a crop field, you will find all the plants to be the same. In a large hectare of land, you are going to grow the same species of plant, right? Is it a natural? Can you see that phenomenon in a natural ecosystem? No, you can never see. You can never see it in a natural ecosystem. In a natural ecosystem, there is biological diversity in which you can see different type of plants growing in the same piece of land. Okay, but in the crop field, you are growing the same plant in the whole piece of land. Okay, that's why it's considered to be an artificial ecosystem. Write a common food chain of 4 steps operating in a terrestrial. Any example you can write. Okay. Yes. Terrestrial ecosystem, not aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem. Okay. Grass, grasshopper, frog, anything. Okay. Now, water consumers, name 4 categories under which the consumers are further classified. Yeah. How are they further classified? Categories. 4 categories under which the consumers are classified. Herbivore, omnivore, carnivore, detritivore. Yes. What are detritivores? Detritivores are decomposers. They'll be consuming the dead and decaying materials. Okay. Yes, and then about the herbivores, they will be consuming the herbs or the plants. Omnivores, both meat and plant eaters, and the carnivores, meat eaters. Okay. Now, right, two harmful effects of using plastic bags on environment suggest alternative uses of plastic. Alternatives to usage of plastic bags. Plastic is non-biodegradable. Yeah, it's going to persist for a long period of time and it's going to harm the other organisms, growth of plants. Then if it reaches the aquatic environments, it's going to strangle and suffocate the animals. Lots of things you can, right? Then suggest the alternatives usage of plastic bags. Alternatives. Paper bags, cloth bags, and then you can reduce it. You can recycle the plastic bags. All of those kind of things can be done. Now, list any two practices that can be followed to dispose the waste produced in our homes. You can segregate them to be degradable and non-degradable waste. If it is a degradable waste, you can make compost out of it and turn it into a manure. And if it's a non-degradable waste material like plastic, you can recycle it or upcycle it and you can use it. Okay, now food chain generally has 3 or 4 trophic levels. Explain why is it only having 3 or 4 trophic levels? 10% law of energy transfer. Okay, now what is biological magnification? Again, repeated question. You can explain. Define an ecosystem. You know the definition for ecosystem. Draw a block diagram to show the flow of energy in the ecosystem. Okay, sun. You can begin with the sun. Sun is giving energy to the producers. From the producers, it's being transferred to various trophic levels. Primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Okay, or in such a way you can use a block diagrams. Now, 8. How can we help in reducing the problem of waste disposal? Suggest any 3 methods. Segregate the waste properly. And if it's a plastic waste, you can reduce the usage of it, recycle. All the 3 R's you can write about. Okay, write anything. General awareness kind of questions these are. Okay. Then distinguish between biodegradable and non-degradable waste materials. You know, they can be decomposed, one cannot be decomposed. There are no enzymes, all of those kind of things. Then in the following food chain, 100 joules of energy is available to the lion. How much energy will be available to the producer? Actually there was a food chain. Okay, over here they had given a food chain. I could not include that over here in the question. Okay, suppose the lion is a tertiary consumer. It is a tertiary consumer. Okay, so lion is having 100 joules. Then suppose it is deer over here. Deer will be having 1000 joules. And deer is consuming some grass. Okay, it's a secondary consumer. So it will be 10,000. Okay. Okay, all right. Now, what are decomposers? Right, the role of decomposer in the environment. What if decomposers are not there in the environment? All the toxic materials are going to get, yes, they'll remain in the ecosystem, they'll persist, and that's going to cause the spread of the diseases, they'll turn toxic, and it's going to create a filthy environment, and it's not at all going to be aesthetic, right? All those kind of things you can write. Now, why are green plants called producers? Because they have chlorophyll, they can photosynthesize, they can prepare their own food materials. That's why they are called the producers. And from them, energy is transferred to various other organisms. Right, the full name of group of compounds mainly responsible for depletion of the ozone layer. Chlorofluorocarbons. Then some other examples. Halons.
Greenhouse gases.
Greenhouse gases are not responsible for depletion of ozone layer. Specific gases. Halons, hydrofluorocarbons, chlorofluorocarbons, all of them are examples. Okay, you can write it, all of them. Now, what is biodiversity? What will happen if the biodiversity of an area is not preserved? Mention one of them. What is biodiversity? The variety of living organisms in a particular environment is called the biodiversity. And if the biodiversity of an area is not preserved, it's going to create an imbalance in the ecosystem. Okay, it's going to create an imbalance in the ecosystem. Okay, so if it's not preserved, it's going to disrupt the balance of the ecosystem. All the food chains will be affected and there will be decline in the number of organisms in the ecosystem. Okay, and even the land can turn barren and can even cause the extinction of some species. 14. What is a 10% flow? Explain to the XML how energy flows through different trophic levels. You can use an example to show it. Okay, 10% flow. Okay, 1% energy from the sun. Then suppose it's 10,000 joules of energy. 10,000 becomes 1,000. 1,000 become 100. In such a way, it keeps on getting transferred. Okay. Yes, 10% flow. You have to say. Name 6 natural ecosystems. So simple. 3 marks. Oh my God. Okay, it was in 2016. You don't need to expect it. Okay. Yes. All right. Any 6 natural ecosystems. A lot of waste is generated in the neighborhood. However, almost all of this is biodegradable. What impact will it have on the environment or human health? Will it have any impact on the environment or human health? If there are decomposers, sufficient number of decomposers, and if they are all decomposed into useful materials, it's not going to have a negative impact on the health of the human beings. Okay, if there are no decomposers, it can cause some problems. Okay, yes, it will emit this kind of foul smell, all of those kind of spread of diseases, house flies, all of those kind of things. Okay, you can, right. If not, it will be converted into compost or into manure, then it can be useful. Then Kulharts and disposable paper cups, both are alternatives for disposable plastic cups. Which one of these two can be considered as better alternative to plastic cups and why? Disposable paper cups. Why are not Kulharts the better alternative? Because it causes a removal of topsoil. Okay, fertile component is removed. Now 18. Although gardens are created by man, they are considered to be ecosystems. Justify the statement. Because there is an interaction of biotic and abiotic components, even the biological components are interacting with each other. You can explain it like the plant is taking up light, it's taking up water, nutrients and everything from the soil. And then also you can write that the plant, very sorry, okay, sorry about it, guys. Okay, now about the Kulharts and this, yes, we already said about it. And then gardens are created by man, but the interaction is happening, right? There is an interaction happening. That means the inorganic components and organic components are interacting with each other. Okay, that's the reason why you consider it to be an ecosystem. Now we do not clean the ponds or lakes, but the aquarium need to be cleaned regularly. Why is it so? First, you have to write that aquarium is a natural, it's an artificial ecosystem, and since there are no decomposers, you have to remove the toxins at regular intervals or else it's going to harm the ecosystem. Okay. Now, ozone is formed in the higher level of atmosphere. Damage to the ozone layer is a cause of concern. Justify the statement. Yes, it causes the UV radiance to enter into the Earth's surface, and it can cause the loss in the agriculture. It can cause skin cancer. It causes cataract. It causes immune problems. Okay, all these kind of things you have to write. Okay, and damage of ozone, it's caused by the CFCs. According to the mark, you can elongate your answer. Okay, yes, guys, that is the end of bio. Yes, any more doubts? Huh? Huh? Yeah, I'll I will send. I had sent another PDF in the group, no? Go through it also after you study. Those are also PYQs only. I couldn't include all the PYQs. These were just 20 questions. Just 20 questions from each of the chapters. Okay, now one more thing that I need to tell you guys. When you draw the diagrams, use a pencil. Now, when you write long answers, underline the important terms. Okay, use a pencil or use the pen with which you are writing. Okay, just highlight the important terms, whatever scientific terms you write, whatever important points you write, just underline them. That's the best way to bring the concentration of the teacher into your paper. Okay, you have to be more smart. Write it properly. Divide the sections properly. After the section A, then give the title section B and then begin answering. Okay, after you are done with all the questions, go through the paper once again and see all the question numbers are given correctly. And then when you get some time, decide which question you are going to attempt. All questions, you have to select them properly. Okay, all these things should be done. Okay, and you should be mindful about whatever you're writing. Don't write unnecessary stuff in the answer paper. Okay, if you feel like one of the question is out of syllabus or it's not there, it was not included, just do one thing, just put the question number. It will be considered to be attempted, and if there is such kind of a question, you will get marked for it. Okay, now if you're not clear about a particular question, don't write any unnecessary stuff in the as the answer, because your teacher is going to read every sentences, and if she feels like, okay, this is something unnecessary or illogical that has been written, it's going to create a negative impression about you. The whole answer sheet will be corrected in such a way only, with that perception in the mind only. Okay, so just write according to the marks, and also you have to write all the essential points according to the marks. If it's a 3-mark question, wherever possible, include the proper diagrams. Okay, and also highlight the important things. You can use flow charts, all of these kind of things while you explain. Okay, while you explain your answer, rather than writing it in the form of a paragraph, you can use the flow diagrams and then the schematic diagrams, everything, all of these kind of things can be used. Okay, and be more smart while you attempt your paper. Be mindful. You don't need to be anxious about any of the things. You saw the questions. You only have this NCERT textbook. It's only from the NCERT textbook that they are going to ask you questions. There are no more questions to be asked, right? Most of the questions are going to be repeated. You have to practice sample papers, previous year papers and everything, and be sure that you're clear with all the concepts. And now when you go home, you have to go through all the chapters again. You might have understood where all you're weak in. Concentrate in those parts. Okay, do more questions based on those parts, and then you'll be able to be more confident and attempt the paper with confidence. Okay, guys.
Okay,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes.
All right. Okay.